Hey, hey, hey! Good afternoon, good morning. Hey, good to see ya. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the Temper Show. We've got that trade war thing going on between Canada and the U.S. It's a trade war day today. Welcome to the stream. Good day, everyone. Red Mama first in there. Good to see ya. Edward Cam. Big ups to everyone coming in to join us here today. And this is a big broadcast here because this is the day that Donald Trump is actually enforcing. It's the big enforcement day. Donald Trump will unveil his tariff trade policy from the White House today. So stand by for that. When he gets on there, we'll bring him in here. But otherwise, we'll just kind of talk about that ahead of time. It's going to be a, what do you call it? A liberating day. A liberating day, as Edward Cam says there. Yeah, as Trump says. Donald Trump liberating your vacation time. Yeah. I was going to go on a boat cruise, eh? The boat cruise, these cruise ships, we were really thinking of going on a family cruise ship thing. And the cruise ship left from Texas and did the Western Caribbean. So I would have had to buy an airplane trip to go down to the States and then pay for the ship, which is, of course, probably an American cruise liner. I don't know. And we put that on hold because of this whole thing with the 25% tariff and all the rest of this stuff. And Canadians are bypassing going down to the States. They're not holidaying down there. Airplane trips are down. Flights are down. We're in a situation where Canadians are feeling hard done by, and are trying to avoid everything American. Up here, the liquor stores, they've cleared out all of the American booze. You can't buy bourbon anymore. American beers and that, unless they're bottled up here in Canada, you can't buy them because they actually took them right off the shelves. So it's not like, do I buy this or this? No, I don't even have a choice. It's like the government already made that choice for me. Hey, good to see you there. We got Edward Cam, CJ is in there, Red Mama, and Don Humphreys coming in from the UK. We just started the stream here right now. So, we're just kind of watching what's going on. Let's bring up, this here is from a little bit earlier. This is not Trump right now, but we'll bring in Trump doing his speech that we've got lined up here. And we'll hear what he has to say about this while we wait for the actual announcement that should be coming up supposedly in about 40 minutes, I believe. But anyways, here's Trump before. This is a recording of him talking about it.
We virtually shut down the out-of-control CFPB, escorting radical left bureaucrats out of the building and locking the doors behind them. What they were doing was so terrible. Where they were spending the money was so terrible. What we haven't looked at yet, but will be, is does the money come back to them? Because nobody can be stupid like that. And they're not stupid. They're smart, actually. And, why are they doing that? Does money come back to them? So we'll figure that out pretty easily, I think, and quickly. But I've ended all of the so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion programs across the entire federal government and private sector, and notified every single government DEI officer that their jobs have been deleted. They're all deleted. And it's interesting, even these companies that have tremendous amounts of money, a number of them just announced, Walmart, if you can believe it, they just announced that they're stopping. And, these companies are writing off like $220 million. How can you spend that much money no matter what you're doing? If you're teaching something, you're going to have an instructor, you're going to talk, you're going to give them a book. Please read the book. Then you find they spent $225 million on that. What's going on? And we were going in the wrong way. And our military was really, although I tell you, we defeated ISIS with our military in 3 weeks. General Raisin Kane he's some general, he's a real general, not a television general. And 3 weeks ISIS, and I asked him, and I saw some of his people that were so great, the soldiers. We have the greatest military in the world, but we don't have the greatest top leadership. That's why Afghanistan was such a horrible situation and so embarrassing and so many other things. But when we want to, with proper leadership, there's nobody even close to us. We have the best equipment in the world. We make the best equipment in the world. But we have the best military. But, we never fight to win. We fight to just keep it going forever. And when we fight to win, there's nobody that can even come close to us. But I was talking to General Dan Kane, we call him Raisin Kane, and I was told it would take about 4 years
good to see you. Coming in on X.
defeat ISIS, and he did it in 3 weeks. I said to him, "What do you think, General? How long
XRP or
will it take,
Bitcoin?
sir? I think we should do it in
I don't know.
less than 4
But
weeks.
good to see you coming in on
We're going to have
X.
time left over," and he did. He did that.
Got lots of people
And we were told by the television channels
coming
it
in on
would take
YouTube, X, and
4
Facebook.
years, so we did it. That's when I went to Iraq. I flew to Iraq, and late at
Give us a
night,
sub on
the dark of
YouTube.
night, all the windows closed, all the lights off in the plane, and Air Force One. And we flew in, and it was pretty
and
amazing.
crackers.
I'll tell you, we were landing, and there were no lights
That's some
in the
good
plane.
comments
Sir,
there.
we have to turn off all lights.
Hit
I
that
said,
like
"You mean
button."
we spend $9 trillion, and we have to fly in an Air Force One with the lights off?" And I went up to the pilot, said hello. And by the way, these guys are like central casting. These are the best-looking human beings. Everybody is like perfect. The most handsome people, the best-looking people you've ever seen with the flat tops and the whole thing. And I was a little concerned because the lights
Hey,
are
Kelly.
off. And everything's off, and even the lights in where he was
Dory.
were down, very dim, very, very dim, with all of the lights on the fancy dashboards of the plane, of Air Force One. We're getting a new Air Force One if they can ever finish the damn thing. We're getting 2 of them, actually. But we may have to go a different route because it's taken them a long time. We're going to get military that's going to start building. We're going to get people to start building properly again in our country because they don't build properly. This was Boeing.
Hey.
But
Hey, here's a
we're
look
up
outside
there
my
and,
window. Oh, bird just took
looking at
off
these
there.
people, and
Nice
again,
sunny
I
day
say
today. Looking
They
good.
look like Tom Cruise, but better. Stronger, tougher. And I like Tom Cruise, but these are better. And they said, "Are we okay?
This is a rerun.
Captain?"
This is not him
"Yes,
live
sir,
yet.
we're fine." But I'm looking at it. I don't
he's
see
supposed
any
to be
lights,
live in
and we're
about
landing.
40 minutes.
And I'm used to that. I like to sit with the pilots a lot and respect the pilots greatly. And we're up there, and we have the computer. I call it the computer voice, where it goes 1,900, 800. It's feet. Your feet above ground. So that means you're very low. And I'm looking out, and my eyes are pretty good, and I don't see any lights. And the computer goes out. Sounds like
Dashing Grandma.
an intelligent individual. It goes 1,000.
See everyone over on X there too.
We're
And
1,000
Facebook.
feet up. It's a 10-story building. There's a big plane. And then it goes 900, 800, 700. I say, "Captain, Captain, we don't see any lights. Is everything?" "Yes, sir, everything's fine, sir. We'll be landing in 3 minutes." And then it goes like 600.
Well, you never handed money to Canada. You've never
500.
collected tax from us, I guess.
"Captain, we okay?"
There's some kind of money.
And then he goes 400, 300, 200. And I'm saying, "Man, there's nothing out there." And then he goes, boom, perfect landing right on this thing. There are no lights on the runway. There's no, I don't know how the hell they do it, but I'm sure as hell glad we had somebody that knows how to fly. But they didn't want to have any lights because they didn't want the enemy. After spending years and trillions of dollars, we have to land with Air Force One with no lights on the runway.
Base T.
But they were
what's
incredible
up?
people. And then I
Good
got
to see
out
ya.
of the plane, and I actually asked my people, I said, "Excuse me, I was very brave sitting in that cockpit. Am I allowed to give myself the Congressional Medal of Honor?" And they said, "I don't think so, sir." I said, "Well, I felt I was extremely brave." But now here's the problem with saying a story like that when you kid. The press will say, "President Donald Trump wanted to give himself the Congressional Medal of Honor."
Hey, Rodney.
Headlines,
Good to see ya.
headlines all over. The fake news. We call it the fake news, but we're all wise.
Didn't know
to
I
it.
was a radio personality.
But it was something.
Hey,
and then I
thanks for
went
the
down,
sub.
and it was the
This
same
is
thing.
Ohio.
I'm standing on the top, and I look down, and there's these handsome people. Everybody's
television,
like
not
from
radio.
a movie set. Good-looking guys. I get down the stairs, and what's your name?
I'm going to go out on the street
My name
later,
is
maybe
Kane, sir.
interview a few people on the
What's your
street.
first name? They call me
Go
Raisin.
live on the
I
street.
say, "Wait a minute. Your name is Raisin Kane? I love you. I've been looking for you for 5 years.
Raisin
You
Kane.
are the great. This is what I want." And
Jerry.
there was a general next to him. There was a colonel. There
Nova.
was a drill sergeant, a master sergeant. They were all like people. I could make a movie right now. I'd have the best looking people ever. And they were great. And then I went
This
in.
is what a president
Sir,
looks
would you like
like.
to rest before the bed? No, I don't
I'm
want to rest.
Canadian.
I
I'm
don't want to rest.
broadcasting
I've been
from
resting
Canada,
on the
Alberta,
plane.
Canada. But
Other than the last
I like
few
Trump. I like
moments, which were
Trump.
quite
I
harrowing.
actually like him. You know,
And
he's Republican.
I said, I don't want to rest.
I like
He was
what
thinking
him
about
and
Biden in
Doge
advance,
are
you
doing.
know?
Dodge.
Biden would have gone there. He would have rested for days. And then they wouldn't have had a meeting.
Co-president
He'd just
Elon.
go home.
They're doing a
I
great
said,
job.
I don't want to rest. I don't want to rest at all. I want to go. So we went into this like bunker.
Hey, Deb.
And we had a lot of very good, talented people.
Welcome to the
And that's when I
liberation.
asked them. I said, I'm hearing it's going to take a long time. No,
You
that's
will
not
be
right.
liberated.
It's
I
not
don't.
gonna
Who's
take a
being
long time. We'll have
liberated?
it
You
done
or
in
me?
4 weeks. I said, how can you
Canadians
say
or
4
Americans?
weeks when in
Not
Washington
sure.
they said 4 years?
People
They
are
said,
crying
4
up
weeks,
here
sir.
already.
We'll hit them left. We'll hit them right. We'll hit them up
There's
the
a-
center. We'll hit them
There's a
underground
peanut
and
company up
overground.
here
We'll
in
knock the hell
Canada
out
and
of them,
Quebec
sir.
that's pissed off because
And I
now they
said,
have
why
to
is
pay
it
more
that
for
they
the
said
peanuts,
so
American.
long? I said,
And then
because
they
they wouldn't let
shell
us
them,
fight.
roast them, bag
We're
them,
very far away.
and then they
want
sell
us
them
to
back
fight
to
for
the
this
States.
From this
So
airport.
they're pissed off.
We're very, very far away, sir. And they want us to fight here. We have many substations out, sub-airports,
that.
they call them, remote airports. where
Elon
they
was
build
on
them in the
stage there,
sand,
and people are saying that he looked
we have
kind of
many of them. And
doped up a bit
use
there.
them all,
I never
sir.
watched the video.
And I would hit him so hard from so many different directions. I said, well, what do you think? He said, you just let me know. And I called him back and I said, go ahead and do it. Are you sure you can do this, General? I said, yes, sir. And he did it actually in 3 weeks. It was over 100%.
Yeah, what's a couple billion
people
here or
that
there?
are really
That's
hurting
about how
the Middle
much
East, hurting
Dodge was spending
the
on
world. And it was done. And we have, I'm telling
operations
you, we
in
have the
Africa.
greatest military in the world, but you have to use the right people. But there's nothing like what they were able to do in that case and in other cases wherever I gave them something. It was done incredibly well and and you know many of the instances because it's been well reported. But
come on
we've also
in.
required,
Good to see
and we
you.
have,
Hit
so
that
we
like
have a
button. We
country
only have
that's a
4
great
likes.
country.
What?
It's a
80
strong
people, 4
country,
likes? That doesn't make sense.
But it's a country that's just now
But,
gaining its respect. back to
10%
the
of my
levels
audience
that it
watches on the TV set.
should have never lost.
I know that much.
We were
So,
being laughed at by
Hi to you
the
out there
entire
watching
world,
on your big
but
screen.
we're not being laughed at anymore. But we've also required that all federal employees must once again show up to work. It's a new phenomena, since COVID. Show up to work in person like the rest of us. So
Show
it
up.
doesn't work when you don't show up. And I see
hit the
companies
like.
now are all going
Good.
back
Thank
to it.
you.
They're all
Thank
going
you.
back. It's great. I watch some of the big business
Mucho
leaders saying we
appreciation.
absolutely are going back. You can't work at home. They're not working. They're playing tennis, they're playing golf, or they have other jobs. But they're not working, or they're certainly not working hard. You could never build a company or a country with that.
Wrong one here.
So we have a very strong policy, and if they don't show up to work, they get fired. And we're trying to
That makes sense,
make our government smaller but much stronger. And we have tremendous
You
bureaucracy.
hear about the guy that they
It's
said show
happening.
up
A
for
lot of
work?
people are
He didn't get the
leaving,
message for a week
and
later.
in some cases leaving with pretty good offers.
He was working from
You paid
home.
7 or
Doesn't
8
even
months
bother looking at his
and go out,
email.
find a job. But some of these people had jobs. They were actually working
Crazy.
for us, but they also had other jobs. And those people, in theory, they have problems. I don't know if we're going to do anything about that. So we have other things to do, but they were working other jobs instead of working for us. So they were staying home working, but they were working other jobs, getting paid a lot of money, perhaps. We offered deferred resignation buyouts to all federal workers, resulting in more than 75,000 bureaucrats voluntarily surrendering their taxpayer-funded jobs. A lot of them are leaving because they don't want to be caught having the second job. Some are leaving because they didn't want to be in government any longer. And some are leaving because they didn't want to show up to work. They wanted to work outside of an office. And that's never going to work for anybody, including companies. Companies ought to get smart. You watch these companies where they do that. They start going bad. Nobody knows what's wrong with this company. Well, try getting the people back into the office where they can be cohesive and together. In less than a single month, the Department of Government Efficiency has already saved
little
over
back-end stuff
55. This is just a short period of time.
Thank you for
$55
turning on
billion.
subs.
And
And
we're just
slow
getting
mode
started.
5
That's
seconds.
nothing
Thank you.
compared to the numbers that you're talking about.
Cool. Whichever
right?
mod did that. Appreciate that.
We're ending trillions of dollars in waste, and it'll mean much lower inflation, lower interest rates,
Hit
lower
that sub button.
payments
hit that like.
on mortgages,
Share us out
credit
if you
cards,
can.
car loans, and much higher stock markets. I think the stock
going
market's going
over
to
to
be great.
Facebook
In
to
other
share
words, we
myself
will
out
rapidly grow our
few
economy
places.
by dramatically shrinking the federal government, and we have to do it. I'm also taking fast action to end the radical left's nation-wrecking crusade against oil and natural gas.
Oh my gosh.
Over the past 4 years, the Biden administration cut the number of new oil leases and gas leases by 95%. They slowed new pipeline. I mean, look at the Dakota Access, they wanted that one knocked out. The Keystone Pipeline, they wanted that one knocked out. They ended the Keystone. We got the Dakota Access done, but it wasn't easy after they tried to stop it. They slowed new oil and gas pipeline construction to virtually a halt. They shut down 38% of active oil and gas rigs in the United States, but they love the wind turbines. They go round and round and round, and if the wind doesn't blow, they got problems. They kill all the birds, they ruin the sight lines, they ruin the plains and the beautiful areas of our country, including the oceans, the lakes. They closed more than 50 power plants, all causing energy prices to skyrocket. You saw that happen. That's what caused inflation, pretty easy. These policies were so destructive that despite draining nearly 40% of U.S. strategic petroleum reserve meant for emergencies, it was meant for emergencies. It wasn't meant for getting a price of gasoline down so that you can win an election. It didn't work for winning the election. Actually, there's so many people that are driving that it's a very small number, just had a very small effect, but in the meantime, it takes it down. We'll fill it up fast, but it's at the lowest level. When we made the transition, it was at the lowest level in history ever recorded. It's the lowest level. Nobody's ever seen it that way.
This is a
put it all
replay
out because they thought they could keep
Trump a little bit earlier. We're waiting for Trump to go live,
just
in case you're
just
just
go
tuning
past
in
the
here.
election.
It's not live
After
right
that,
now,
they didn't care.
but we are waiting for
it didn't work because
Trump to go live,
elected.
and we'll pick that up when he does
but
go
the price
live.
of gasoline still rose
Thanks
over
a lot for tuning
35%, and in some cases, at some
device.
periods, it was 100% and 125% during
Appreciate
certain
that.
periods of time.
103
Under
in
the
the
Trump
House here.
administration, we have implemented
Cannabis
a
Rex.
very different plan. You probably heard of it. It's called
Robert
Drill,
Sinclair.
Baby,
Good to see you.
Drill. And we're doing
Bob Cox.
The world runs on low-cost energy, and energy-producing nations like us have nothing to apologize for. We have more energy than any other nation in the world, and we're going to use it. And we're going to use it on AI plants. I was telling some of the people that came in that, they're very interested. Everybody's talking about AI. I hope you're right.
Kelly, big ups.
I don't know. Who knows?
Dash and
But,
Grandma.
Elon, are they right? Are they right in going? They are all in for AI, but the problem is
good friends
to do it. Just in our country, you
everyone.
need twice the electricity just to open up and be the top of AI. You need twice the electricity that we have right now in the entire country. If you take all of the electricity, you need more than twice. You need double what we have right now just to fuel this new industry that's growing.
Damn, you're whacked.
I was amazed when I heard
like that
number. And
I like that
they
handle.
all said, how can we do this?
Damn,
because,
you're
in
whacked.
China and various other places, you can probably get it with the shake of a hand. But in our country, you can't. But now you can because I'm declaring a national emergency in order to get fast approvals. And we're going to have, if you build a plant, you're able to build an electric generating facility right next to your plant. So you'll be making your own. You won't have to count on utilities. You won't have to count on an old grid that could fail, could get hit by something, bad things or good things. But you're not going to have to worry about grids. You'll build your plant and you'll build essentially you'll become a utility in a way. You'll build your own electricity. If you want to build extra and put it out and get paid for that, you're going to be able to do that. You could put it back into the grid, but you're going to be able to build with your plant a generating facility, and we're going to get you Lee Zeldin, head of the environmental.
I don't know what you mean by that, Bob.
The environmental group, various groups, and we've got them unified now, but we're going to get you very fast approvals. And they'll be approved so fast, your head will spin. And we're going to get that whole industry started, and we're going to be the head of it.
Robert.
We're leading right now. We have the greatest brain power. We're leading right now, and I expect that we're going to be leading by a lot, but we're going to get you the energy very, very quickly. That would be the one thing that everybody was concerned. How do we have that much electricity when Los Angeles has blackouts and brownouts right now? And there's a lack of electricity, but we're going to get it.
Thanks for the
at levels never
kind
seen
words.
before. I ended the
Must be a
ridiculous
tariff on my
green
like
new
button.
scam,
We don't have enough
vaulting
likes.
tens of billions
15
of dollars
likes. Come on.
Wasteful deficit spending. and I withdrew the United States from
Anyone
the
can do better
unfair
than
one-sided Paris Climate
What do I have to
Accord,
do,
and
put
I
on some
ended
funny
Joe
sunglasses?
Biden's insane electric vehicle mandate because it was just insane. I repealed the last, and by the way, if you want to buy an electric car, it's great. If you want to buy a
I hear they're
gasoline-driven
selling
car or
them
a
cheap
hybrid,
these
it's
days.
great. Whatever
Got a lot of
whatever the
Democrats selling their
thing happens
Teslas.
to be. I heard hydrogen's hot. The problem is
Cheap.
when
Should
it's
be able to
not,
see 'em for
you're in
cheap.
deep trouble.
But I don't
Because when
know.
that
I
sucker
looked at the
blows
price
up,
of a used
they don't
Cybertruck
find the
truck, and
body.
it was
So that's one
$128,000
that I said, you know
up
what,
here in
let's
Canada.
take a pass on that
That's
one.
not
They
cheap.
said it's good, but when it's bad, it's really bad. You find the bodies on trees on the side of a tree.
Make
I said, I
Canada
think
win
we'll
again.
pass on
Yeah.
that one.
Where's
Right?
my
We're
other
not gonna
hat?
want
Yeah.
that one. But you never know. Maybe someday
Canada
it'll be
great
good, but
again.
it doesn't
I gotta
sound
put
like
that
it's
hat
off
on.
to a good start. I repealed the last administration's
19
very
thumbs ups.
destructive
Come
natural
on.
gas export
That's highway
ban.
robbery.
And
100
last
people
week
in
we
the room and
approved
only
our
19
first
thumbs
new
up. Let's see that number go
liquefied
up. Come
natural
on.
gas export
20.
license, and we have literally hundreds of
Oh,
people that
49
want to
people watching.
export.
Oh,
I
well
recently
then
met
the
with
rest
the
of the people
Japanese
watching must
Prime
be on
Minister,
Facebook or
Shiba,
X.
to
Have people coming
discuss
and going
large
off of X
increases in
everything.
American oil and gas
Good to see you.
exports. They want it so
Sure you
badly. They
chime
said
in.
we went to the Biden administration. They wouldn't sell it. They wouldn't sell it. Nobody knows why. Biden didn't know why either. They asked him. I don't know. He wanted. They did. Oh, I
Happy
didn't know
Tariff
that.
Day, yeah.
But we're going to sell it, and
Appreciate
the
that.
new project in Alaska.
Actually,
is
you're the
gonna
guys paying
feed
more
all of Asia.
in the
It's going to
States.
take care of all of
So it's
Asia. We
your
have so
tariff,
much
actually.
oil and gas, like
So,
very few
you know,
people, like
good luck
very
when
few
you wanna
countries
buy a
have,
Canadian,
like really, actually no country
maple
has.
syrup.
I also met with Prime
Gotta pay
Minister Modi
25%
of
more.
India, who wants to greatly expand India's purchase of American energy, and my administration has also launched the most aggressive deregulation
six, pay
program of
one.
any nation in history. Under my executive order, for every one new regulation added, 10 old regulations have
South
to
of
be
the South.
eliminated.
Good to see you.
And you know, in our first term, which was
I'm not cheering on
actually
the
an incredible
tariffs.
success, we had the greatest
I think they're a
economy
good
in
idea,
history
though, to bring
until
business back
COVID,
to
and
your
even
own
after
country.
that, we
You know,
did
like,
great. The stock market was
I
higher.
understand the
If
concept.
you think of it, it
The
was
concept
higher
is great.
after the fact.
But
After
let's see how
we
it works.
went through that whole thing, it was higher
Gonna
than
be pain,
it was just
pain.
prior to COVID
Pain for you,
coming
pain
in,
for me.
which is a pretty amazing thing. But we did a great job on that.
Yeah,
but it was
exactly,
a terrible
Angie.
thing for the world. The whole world suffered. It suffered terribly, including China, including other countries. It just was a terrible period of time. But
You have to
despite that,
switch
we
to,
did well. But we had the
just regular
greatest
sugar.
economy in the history of our country. And I think this time we're going to do even better. We were artificially hurt by COVID. We had to focus on that instead of focusing on, but just prior to COVID coming in, there's never been anything like what we did, what we achieved. And even after we did
Yeah,
very
what,
well,
Elon
and
leaving
especially
Doge?
considering what all of
Heard
us had to
something
do
about
with
that. I don't know what
some
the
nations were hit so
story is.
badly, it's just unbelievable what happened to them. As part of our effort, I've signed executive orders to keep the United States at the forefront of artificial intelligence and
I wonder,
to
Rex.
end Joe Biden's war on Bitcoin and crypto. We ended that war totally. That war is over. They were very hostile toward them until the very end, just because there's so many people on Bitcoin and crypto that just before the end, the SEC came out and they were being very nice. I was so nice to people because so many people were being indicted for no reason whatsoever. Very political group of people. That's all they did was they liked indicting people, but they were being indicted, and
He has
many
to
of those
step down by
indictments
May
were dropped
or
just
be an
before
official Fed employee.
the election
Oh, wow.
because they said, wait a minute,
That's what the deal
there's
is.
100 million,
with,
125 million
Musk.
people using this, and they didn't want to have, you know, all these people being voted against. But by the time they did that, it was
Everybody's
too
an
late. We had
individual,
that
Rex.
vote entirely, I think. I think anybody would smart
NH
that
Mountain
believed in that,
Girl.
and there were a lot of people
Good to see
believing it. Anybody that was smart
New
voted
Hampshire.
for Trump. And they pulled the indictments, and I see people that were indicted. I said, I saved your life. I
You guys will
saved
be getting
your
a
life.
check for
Because
$5,000
if
from
they
Trump
thought
there right away.
that they actually thought that I was doing it, they said, why is Trump doing it? Is he doing it for political
Tariff check.
reasons? I don't do anything for political reasons. I do what's right. I want to be in the forefront of every industry. So I'll be working with the Republican
Hit that like
Congress to
button.
pass the largest tax cuts in American history. And that includes, obviously, yeah.
I think
that
I'm getting
includes we have
shadow
to
banned
extend
on
the Trump tax cuts,
YouTube
which were until
badly.
now the largest.
Really
We're going
badly.
to dramatically
Probably
cut
'cause everyone's-
taxes for
all
families
that
and for
swearing
workers
crap
and
that
for
goes on in
companies,
some of my
including no
streams.
tax on tips and hopefully no tax on Social Security and no tax on
We have to
overtime.
bet.
And that overtime one is a sleeper because I think a lot of people are going to be spurred on to do a lot of extra work when they hear that. It's,
Their YouTube
a lot of companies
commercials, not
really
mine.
like it, and a lot of people really like it. The new Trump tax cuts will also include 100% expensing
Hey, you don't
for
get
new
commercials
factory
if you buy
construction in the United
YouTube
States
Premium,
and
you know
anything
that.
else that you're going to buy with capital. If you buy something that is going to be good for our country, we're going to let you
Sassy.
expense it, 1 year expense. And I did that the first time, and everybody was saying, can you go back to that? Now you still get, I guess, 40% or whatever, but it
Oh, Dory,
pares
you need
down,
a
but
wrench?
We're going to bring that right up to the top level. I think that had a lot to do with the success that I had during my first term. And we'll substantially cut taxes for all domestic producers of oil and gas and just about everything else that they produce. In my first term, I brought the business tax down from around 40% to 21%, which everybody said was an impossible thing to do. I cut it from 40. It actually was state and city was much higher than 40, but I got it down to 21%, and now I'm bringing it down to a goal of 15%, but only if you make your product in America. In other words, you're going to be at 21%, but if you make your product in America, you're going to go from 21 to 15. If you don't, you're going to pay 21%, which is still lower than anything. So guys like Elon are going to come and make his great cars in the United States. There are a lot of people will. A lot of people are calling. A lot of car companies are calling. They called me, three of the majors. They called and they said, we're looking all over the place. We want to be there. I'm going to be announcing tariffs on cars and semiconductors and chips and pharmaceuticals, drugs and pharmaceuticals and lumber probably and some other things over the next month or sooner.
It's a nice day over here in Edmonton. Nice and
going to have
sunny.
a big impact on
Blue
America.
sky.
We're bringing our businesses
They're
back.
again.
If they don't
sunny for
make
a
their
week
product
now,
in America, then they very simply
more snow.
have to pay a tariff. But if they do make their product in America, they don't have to pay any tariff, which will bring, it's all going to bring trillions of dollars into our treasury, or it's going to mean that there won't be any taxes because we won't have a fair base. If they don't have it, we don't have it. If they don't pay, if they don't charge us, we don't charge them. It's pretty simple. The Republican Party is once again the party of common sense. We're a party of common sense. We want strong borders. We don't want men playing in women's sports. We don't want to have transgender for everybody. We're the party of common sense. That's how we won the election in such a big manner. We'll no longer allow other countries to ransack and plunder our nation. That's why I've announced that we will soon begin imposing reciprocal tariffs on any country that engages in unfair and unequal trading practices. If they tariff us, as I said, we will
that's coming up.
Them
in 2 days. Canada is going
to
push the tariffs against
some of the countries, even countries that I've already mentioned, are extremely aggressive with tariffs. Nobody knows that. European Union, they have a VAT tax. It's devastating. It's very tough for people on the outside. Hard to sell cars. Really impossible to sell them because they also have non-monetary tariffs that are very, very tough. But if you take a look at that, it's a very unfair situation. And the VAT tax is similar to the tariff. Around the world, I'm moving quickly to end wars, settle conflicts, and restore the planet to peace. I want peace, and I don't want to see everybody being killed. And take a look at the death in the Middle East and the death that's taking place between Russia and Ukraine. It's been going on.
I'd rather see tariffs than a GST, you know that?
There's no profit for anyone in having World War III, and you're not so far away from it. I'll tell you right now, you're not so far away. If we would have had this administration for another year, you would have been in World War III, and now it's not going to happen. In the Middle East, I've restored my policy of maximum pressure on Iran designed to bring peace.
Robert. Yeah, he'll cut taxes, but cost of everything else will rise.
A terrorist organization. They're, destroying shipping lanes all over the place. They're making it very hard for people to get their product delivered.
I'm patriotic for Alberta. I'm not so patriotic for Canada anymore.
And we've secured a ceasefire in Gaza. And we're bringing in the hostages, and we're bringing them home to their families.
Come on, you want to move to Alberta if you want a good lifestyle.
To end the horrible war in Ukraine, I've spoken with President Putin and President Zelensky, and our teams began negotiations this week in Saudi Arabia. I want to thank Saudi Arabia for that. That was so great.
I got to make my own crypto coin, the Tommy Temper
and I want to thank
meme coin.
in particular, I mean, we have so many of the people, Yasser, Mohammed, all of the people, but in particular,
Bob,
we have
good
to
to see
thank
ya.
Crown Prince
Hey,
Mohammed bin Salman
don't say
for
that.
hosting
That'll get you in
these
jail
historic
saying
talks.
stuff like that. That's not good. No.
And talks that went very, very well. Steve was there, Steve Witkoff was there, and Michael was there, Michael Waltz, and
Good
others,
call.
and
I
they
wonder.
really went well. It's a big,
I don't
it's a
own
big
any,
step. We got to
Edward.
get that war over with. You have to see the people that are
Ask,
dying. I look at the pictures,
Charlie, he's into
the
meme
satellite
coins.
pictures of the field. It's a level field.
Yeah, mega, baby.
And it looks like a modern day version of Gettysburg, and you know what that means. It is just carnage. It's horrible.
This is a replay
And,
of Trump.
You know,
When he
it's
goes
not
live,
American
we'll put him on here.
soldiers. It's not even soldiers from the Middle East in the case of Ukraine, Russia, but it's people, it's young people from Russia and Ukraine mostly that are just being decimated. It's flat fields, and a bullet goes, and a bullet
bad day
only stops when it hits
today.
somebody. And the level of people being killed in that battle, soldiers, young soldiers, in some cases old soldiers,
Yeah.
because they're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers.
if you're
in
American.
One case. But think of it,
Because
a
you'll have more jobs in the
modestly
States.
successful comedian, President Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion
That
to go into
crypto,
a
that's
war
such a
that
scam, you know.
basically couldn't
Any
be
kind
won,
of crypto.
that never had to start,
That's
and
why I
never
don't
would have
own any
started if I was
crypto. I never
president. Not
bought
even a
into it.
chance. And it didn't start for 4 years.
I wasn't
Never would have
foolish.
started.
I would buy
A
it
war that he, without
to
the
play
US
with it,
and
you know, like to try and
Trump
make some money
will
off
never
of
be
it,
able
but I
to
wouldn't
settle.
buy
They'll
it
never
just to
settle
buy
that
it.
war without our involvement. That's why they did such a great
You know,
job
like
this
I'd
weekend.
buy
That's why Saudi
a
Arabia
meme
did such
coin
a
when
great
it first
job this
comes out,
weekend in
and then
hosting.
when it rises, okay,
The United
then sell.
States has spent $200 billion
Pump and
more
dump.
than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed. They get their money back. It's a form of a loan. Nobody knows that. I know that. I said, why isn't somebody saying,
Linda's in
we
there.
do it the same way?
Your evil
And we
karmic
spent much more money.
consequences.
We have to
Watch
equalize,
yourself.
But while the United States gets nothing back, so they get their money back. It's a loan.
Hey,
we
Linda,
just give our money.
elaborate.
And we had a deal based on
Tell me more
rare
about
earth
what
and
you're
things,
saying.
but they broke that deal. But they broke it 2 days ago.
Looks
We had a
sus.
deal because I said
Wed the
we're
bet.
spending $350 billion, and Europe gets their money back in the form of a loan, and we don't. We're just giving the money hand over
Wed the
fist.
bet.
That's the Biden
Wow, you're a nice
administration for
person.
you.
You're really nice.
But they're no longer dealing
you
with the
that,
same United States as they were dealing
artificial
with a few months
intelligence
ago.
admin?
Why didn't crooked Joe Biden demand equalization?
Yeah, Crooked
And
Joe.
that this
Where is he?
war is far more important to Europe than it is to us, and that there's a
Exactly.
very big, beautiful ocean, a separation. This is, we're helping Europe. We're trying to help Europe. On top of this, Zelensky admits
Sherry.
that half of the money that we sent them is
like
missing.
that
They don't
name.
know where the
Sherry.
money is. He said, well, we don't know where half of it is.
Mon
That's great,
chéri.
wonderful. He refuses to have elections. Is low in the real Ukrainian polls. I mean, how can you be high with every city is being demolished? It's hard to be high. Somebody said, oh, no, his polls are good. Give me a break.
Yeah, Edward
Every
Cam.
city is being demolished.
Yeah, I thought the tariffs
like
were
a
about
demolition
fentanyl.
site, every
Yeah,
single
whatever
one of
happened to that?
And the only thing he was
that was
really
just
good
a
at was
reason
playing
for
Joe
putting him
Biden
on.
like
That
a
wasn't
fiddle.
the
He
real
played him
reason.
like a fiddle. That's an
But it was a good
expression we
starter.
use, Yasser, to say that he's pretty easy. A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast, or he's
Hey,
not going
Trump
to
is
have a
gonna
country
figure out
left.
how to
Gotta
get
move,
reelected
gotta
for a
move
third
fast,
term.
'cause that war is
What about
going in
that?
the wrong direction. In the meantime,
Damn,
we're
you're
successfully
whacked. Hit that
negotiating
like.
an end to the war with Russia. Something all admit that only Trump is going to be able to do in the Trump administration. We're going to be able to do it.
Hit that
I
like
think
button.
Putin even admitted that.
Share us out.
Biden never tried. Europe has failed to
Sorry, we're
bring
getting a
peace.
few
and
people
Zelensky
watching on
probably
Fascist
wants
Book
to,
there.
maybe
Thanks
he
a
wants
lot.
to keep the gravy
You're on
train
Fascist
going. I don't know
Book.
what's the problem, but he
Woo-hoo,
hasn't
big
been able.
ups.
He's very upset that he wasn't invited.
Tax
He could
that
have come
tax.
if he wanted to, but that he wasn't
All of
invited
the
to Saudi
tax.
Arabia. But he's been working for 3 years. There's never been even meetings or phone calls to stop this war. It's a horrible thing. I figure Russia's lost 900,000 soldiers. I think that Ukraine's lost probably 700,000.
Well, I'm seeing on my meter here
And it's a
129 people
terrible thing.
watching
You'll
right
see
now.
bodies and body parts all
On
over
the
the
different
field,
platforms.
all over. We see them very accurately through satellites. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has
April
done a
Fools, yeah.
terrible job. His country is shattered,
Sugar,
and
sugar.
millions and millions of people have unnecessarily died. And you can't bring a war to an end if you don't talk to both sides. You got to talk. They
Vive
haven't
la
been talking
Canada.
for 3 years.
Exactly.
So we hope to see a ceasefire soon and to reestablish stability in Europe and the Middle East.
Hey, hey, hey. If you type in an emoji, it bounces
Thank you
around
very
on the
much.
screen.
And as I've said before, it's my hope that my greatest legacy will be as a peacemaker and a unifier. That would be a great legacy.
Hey, Angie, that was a great
So in conclusion, the golden age of America
April
is
Fool's
upon
joke.
us, and I'm inviting everyone here today
got
and
everyone
every
triggered
citizen
with that
across our
one.
land to take part in the most extraordinary period of peace, prosperity, growth, innovation, wealth creation,
Yeah,
and
we
expansion.
got a lot of
the
products
world
in
has
here
ever
from
seen.
India and China
We're on our way.
with low tariffs, that's for sure.
Everyone's talking about us. 3 weeks. We're in there for a couple of days more than 3 weeks. And everyone's talking about it. You have to see the crowds of people outside. It's pretty amazing what's happening. We're on the verge of soaring markets, surging incomes, booming
Hey,
production,
Bill, good to see you.
groundbreaking technologies, thrilling discoveries, and a quantum leap in the quality of life. Absolutely,
Northwoods
a quantum
Media
leap. One
in the
day, very
house.
soon, our country will have
Big
the
ups,
greatest
bro.
economy in the history of the world because we once again have a president
Everyone's
who puts
welcome in the
America
channel.
first, and we put America first.
Say
and
whatever
your
you want,
country
I
should
don't
put
care.
your country
Could be
first.
pro-Trump,
But in the end,
anti-Trump.
we want America first, and when it's all
Pro-Canada,
beautiful, which is going
anti-Canada,
to
I
be
don't
pretty
care.
soon, we want to help other
Come on
countries,
in
and
and
you
say
want to
your
help
piece.
other countries. But you know, I tell your leaders, and some of the leaders are in this room right now, you got to put your country first. Whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's something else, you got to put your country first. But we're going to have plenty
Rex,
left
come
over
on.
to help others.
But be nice
also.
to me,
As
the
long
host.
as
Be
you
nice
invest
to
in
me
America,
at least,
build in
okay?
America, and
I'm
hire
just
in
the
America,
purveyor
that
of
means
the
that I'm fighting for
information.
you. I am fighting very hard for you. Together, we're going to make the United States of America bigger,
Exactly,
better, bolder,
Grandma.
richer, and greater than ever before. It's going to be stronger than ever before. We're going to be a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. We're going to stop people from these stupid, never-ending wars. We're
We
not
need to
going
get rid of all
partake in
hidden
them
taxes,
ourselves, but we'll
GSTs,
be
and all kind of crap
stronger
like
and
that.
more powerful
And just
than anybody
go
by
with
far.
tariffs.
And if it ever
Go with
came to
tariffs.
war,
Tariffs
there is
are the way
nobody
to
that will
go.
be able to come close to us. But we don't think that's going
Because
to
then
ever
you pay
happen.
less taxes.
So I want
You
to
can
thank
reduce
you all very
taxes
much.
and
It's a great
get your
honor
government
to be here.
money
And I
in
think
from the
somebody
from the
said they're going to
tariffs.
ask questions. And I didn't say, gee, what are the questions like Biden does? I say,
Happy
just ask, it
apocalypse.
doesn't matter. You ask a question and I give an
Linda.
answer. So I think, Richard, you're going to come up and you're going to
That's
give me
what you
some
meant.
questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Please, a round of applause for the President of the United States of America. Thank you. Mr. President, thank you for accepting to take a few questions. 20 years ago, I don't know if you will remember, we were under the same roof in Orlando and you were delivering an amazing speech in front of 3,000 sales reps, giving them the best advice to be successful. So what is the best piece of advice
Exactly,
that you have
Sherry.
ever received?
Alberta gets the worst.
Well, I think it was watching
the-
my father. You know, my father was a very
the
hard
money
worker,
bag of Canada.
and he just worked hard. And he was very smart. He had good
And we're sick and
genetics.
tired
His
of it
brother
already.
was the longest-serving professor in the history of MIT.
Alberta's government
Dr.
can't
John
even
Trump.
make ends meet because
And
we're
my
sending
father was every
billions
bit
over
as
to
smart. But my
Ottawa.
father was
or
had to
Ontario
work.
and
He was
Quebec,
older, and he put
mostly.
his brother through school. In fact, he once said, "Boy, I put him through so much school. He had 3 different degrees." And they asked him to stay on at MIT,
well,
but
Deb.
my father was the same ilk. And I noticed that my father was a happy man. And what he did is he worked. He just worked all the time. He worked. And, he loved
John,
it.
I
And
need
really, I
to
think the
not
best piece
look
of
at the
advice I got
polls,
from
the
that is you
lefty
have to love
polls.
what
I
you
don't
do,
believe
and
the
if you love
polls
what
at
you
all.
do, you're going to have a
Not
happy
at all.
life. If you
They're
don't,
so
I mean, I see
fake.
so many people. They're in businesses that they don't want to be in. They're in businesses that they're bored in or they're not good at. They don't have a natural ability at it. There is such a thing as natural ability, whether it's sports or acting or anything else. I mean, some people have an ability for something.
You
Try
know,
and find
my
that
wife got a
ability, but
poll from,
you have to
I
love
forget
what
what
you do.
poll
If
it
you love
was,
what you do,
E
you're gonna
something
be,
or other
at least you have a
poll
good chance at being successful.
on her phone. And she just
President,
said,
it's almost
stop
time
right away.
for,
She didn't even
for an
go
early
for the
dinner.
poll. She didn't even answer the
So
question
if
of
you
the poll.
are
And
throwing
she's
a dinner
conservative.
party and
So
you can
a lot of
invite
people don't
3
even answer the
fascinating
polls.
guests, living or dead, who would you bring?
Well, they're all sitting right in the front row.
Brett in the house. Hey, Brett.
Yes, sir. Are you ready? Mohammed,
you.
are you ready? Steve Witkoff, and we have Mr. the most important person, at least until the World Cup is over, is here. Johnny,
It was
stand up. He
April
gave
1st,
the United States
April
the World
Fool's
Cup.
joke there, Edward.
Johnny, thank you very much.
But
I
it
didn't know
must
you
have
were
worked
here.
if
That's
it's
very good.
still
He's
triggering you.
the king of soccer. That's not bad. And you've done a fantastic job. You know, but it's very interesting. When I was president, I got the World Cup, and I got all of the, you know, we have the 250 anniversary, so that fell in this administration. That's a big deal, 250 years. But we have all of these things happening, and I also got the Olympics, and I was called by the mayor of Los Angeles, sir, would you call up the Olympic Committee, because it was at that time President Obama will not
I
take
guess
their
people
phone
didn't
call,
like
and we're
the
going to get
eviction
the
joke,
Olympics in
Angie.
Los Angeles. And by the way, they've recommitted to Los Angeles at a level that, you know, I was very worried about that. And they've, the opposite, you know, somebody could have said, well, we're going to do it someplace else, until
Exactly,
they have
Brett.
actually recommitted.
Leave
They're going to make
Angie
it
alone.
bigger and better than ever. So I want to let you know that. But I had the Olympics. So I got the Olympics, I got the World Cup, and I said, and the 250, but that one I didn't get.
Oh,
But
you guys.
it was there. It was in this term. And I ran an election.
That's
and
right,
we did
Ron.
fantastic
Hey, Ron,
in
good to see ya.
2016. We did much better. Millions and millions, tens of millions,
Big
but
ups.
millions and millions of votes better. And bad things happened, and I didn't get that one. And I said, you know, when I originally signed the Olympics, I said, I won't be able to even be president. And I got the Olympics, because if I didn't, when I spoke with the people, the organizing committee and the people in different parts of the world, they asked me to do it because the president wouldn't do it. I was president-elect, and I gave them a talk. I couldn't get them off the phone. They were starving for love. And the bottom line, they gave us the Olympics. And I said, you know, isn't it sad I won't be president? Then we had the election result, and now I'm president for the Olympics and for the World Cup. So I'm very happy about that, Johnny. Thank you very much. Thank you, Johnny.
Bilbo
I'll be
Peep,
there. I promise I'll be
telescope.
there.
And by the way,
Well
Mr.
said.
President, backstage you have a gift from Johnny.
Looking
he gave
good.
us
RV
the first
in the
ball
house.
with your name, which will be played for the Cup World
Or
Cup
snafu,
in America.
telescope, what are
It's going
you
to be
saying?
great. Thank you, Johnny, very much.
I doubt that
Cam going to
any
lose
day
his
you will
job?
take a sabbatical year, but if you could take a sabbatical year, Mr. President, what
People might lose their
unconventional
jobs.
thing would you do?
What was the word?
Sabbatical. You
Oh,
don't work for
sabbatical.
1
I
year.
thought you said Sabbath. It's a big difference. It's almost the opposite when you think about it, right?
Uh-oh. Canada
think what I
RV
do
in the
is,
house. Good to see you,
What
bro.
I'm doing now
Yeah, you can get
is
that
the
bot
most exciting
to
job in the world. It's a
drop
hard
your link
job,
to your
not an
channel there.
easy
Just
job.
type
It's a
in
nasty
exclamation
job.
mark link.
It could be a lot
I'm going to
easier
just go out
with, you know, I
and
think
look
that
for the feed.
the news media has to straighten themselves out, because people are getting it. You know, they're losing tremendous popularity, and they've lost their prestige, and they've lost their credibility. And I think it's a very important thing, the news media, but I think they have to straighten themselves out, because the people are going
Should be
around
getting
them now.
ready
They have
to
so
go
many
live
different
here pretty
things with,
soon.
like Elon
Donald
with
Trump
X,
has
which
made
was
it
a big thing, and we have Truth, which
Donald
has been
Trump has made-
fantastic, and we have so many other things that you don't really need traditional. But I will tell you that there is just nothing I could do to enjoy my life, whether it's that or anything else that you'd ask, because this is the ultimate. I mean, I had to make a big decision, and it was a very risky decision, because if I would have lost, my life would have been a much different life. It would have been a very nasty life. They were going after me at levels that nobody's ever seen before. Not Andrew Jackson, not Abraham Lincoln. You know, the historians say that the president that was treated the worst by far by the media and overall was Andrew Jackson. In fact, his wife died of heartbreak. They were treated really rough. And Abraham Lincoln was second, but he had a civil war, you know, you can understand that. But nobody was treated like me, nobody. And I will tell you, you learn a lot about yourself. But there's nothing I'd rather do. I had to make a decision, do I do this? Because if I lost, it would have been very, very bad. It was dangerous, actually, very dangerous in so many different ways. And I decided to do it, and I said, I have to win, because if I don't, when I spoke to a friend of mine the other night, he said, you know, if you lost, it would have been it was actually Sean Hannity just before we did the interview last night. He said, boy, if you would have lost, you would have had a tough life. You would have had a very tough life. So there was a certain amount of courage involved in this decision to run, and it's a great honor to win by this much, to win all 7 swing states, the popular vote. Popular vote doesn't get won that much by Republicans for whatever reason. I think that's changing because, again, we're the party of common sense, and they're the party of some real bad things.
Okay,
and I think
we'll
they'll
be,
change. I think they have to
watching for
change.
this feed
It would
to
be
show
wonderful.
up.
I'm going to be having lunch with some of the Democrats next week, and it would be wonderful if we could work together. I think working together would be great. But they have to change. You can't get elected on the programs that they want, and that's really what America wants to see. So there's nothing I'd rather do than what I'm doing right now.
We'll bring up Trump when he
When we
goes
started
live.
this conference, Mr. President, when we started this conference, Yasser and I, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince told us, I want that to be the place
His
where
live
people
will
will
begin
come to
shortly. We're just
understand
watching a replay
where
here
to
until the live
invest
starts.
in terms of geographies and sector. So what is the best investment you have made in your personal growth, Mr. President?
Well, I was involved in real estate from most of my life, and was guys like Witkoff will tell you I was really good at it, and I was successful at it, very successful at it. I've been involved in things prior to being president, but during the last 4 years, I followed sort of the trends, and I've made a lot of money with following some of these
I
trends.
got 3 left.
And,
3 dog houses are left. Telescope.
Again, it's something that
I'm going to
you do.
video them. I know that you guys don't
really
like
believe that
me
some people
videoing
have
them because
instinct.
you
I
think
I've
I'm
always
taking
had an
advantage of
instinct
the
for
homeless.
making money. I
But
make
I'm going to
money.
go out there
and
and
I
video
went into
me
show
giving
business.
away
I had
3
one of the
more
most successful
homeless
shows on
shelters.
television. I wrote books,
So-
and they were all bestsellers.
And the one that I did
Virtually every
donate
book
is
was
still there.
big
They're still
bestsellers,
using
some
it.
really big bestsellers. And
So,
so
they
I don't know,
appreciate
it's
it.
whatever I do, I just want to make it successful. It's very important to me. There are many ways to make money. You can be in many different fields. And
AG.
a lot of them is being in the right country. If you're in a certain country,
Big ups, G.
our country is actually getting very
Good
bad.
to
a
see
very
you,
dangerous
Christina
place,
W.
actually. Bad
From the
things were
trucker side
happening.
of things.
But,
Good to see
if
you.
you're in a certain country, you have a chance to do well. And
Coming in from
no
the
matter how
States?
good you are, if you were born into the wrong country, you're not going to make money. Now, you can do other things. You can attain power, I guess. Maybe it's the wrong kind of power, but it's power.
Angie, you
But
triggered
being
everyone.
in the right country, where you have the
good on
right
you.
incentives,
That's all I can
and,
say.
entrepreneurship,
did,
etc.
triggered 'em.
And America has always been sort of at the top, or
Yeah.
one of the top,
Chat
but always
group
pretty much
hug.
at the
Yeah,
top.
where's our hug button
But it was
here?
losing that. It was losing that position.
Need a hug
And I think
button.
losing it rapidly. This last administration. Look, I don't want to be. I wish I could say I wouldn't have run if I thought Biden was doing a good job. If I thought they were, I wouldn't have run. Because, as I said, it was very dangerous to run in a lot of ways. In fact, my ear will show that when you look at it closely. My
Hey,
ear,
we got railroaded.
I have that
Good to see
throbbing
ya.
feeling every once in a while, but it was dangerous in a lot of different ways. But
Hey,
he was
the-
so
the
bad
next
that
one
I had
is
no choice
painted.
but to do it.
But
If
when
I
you-
thought he
when
was
you
doing
mentioned
a
that, the
great
next
job,
one
I wouldn't
was
have run,
spray
and I would
painted
be
with some
very
artwork
happy.
on it.
I actually wanted him to do a good job.
I saw them
I was
doing it,
saying,
so-
do this, do
Yeah,
that. I'm
yeah.
telling them, do things.
They
They
will
should
be
have done
spray
what I
painted.
said. And
They'll-
but I
they'll
would have been,
match more
I would have
into
been
the
very
environment,
happy not to have run,
dog
and
houses.
frankly to have seen somebody do a good job. But our country was going to hell, and I really sort of had to run.
If you were a historical ruler, would you prefer to rule during war?
Oh, that's what they're pissed off about.
Well,
You-
I want to
you-
be, again,
the
a
joke was
peacemaker,
that
and I
you're
want to
getting
keep us out of
evicted.
war. But sometimes to
people
do that, you have to
donated
have a
to
very
you
strong country. You have
because
to have
you're
a
getting
very strong
evicted.
military.
Oh, man.
And as I said, we
Yeah, well,
have a
feel
much
free to
stronger
donate to the
military
Tommy
than
Temper
anyone
Show
would
because
know.
it'll
We
go
have the
towards
best
building more
equipment.
dog houses.
And I bought
so
a lot of it. I
we'll be
rebuilt
going
our
to a good
military the
use.
first 4 years. I rebuilt it. We gave a lot of it away to Afghanistan, to the Taliban, stupidly, but that's a very small amount relative. It was billions and billions, but it's still a very small amount relatively to what we built.
Show will begin
But I
shortly.
largely rebuilt our military. Now I'm going to have to do it again because so much has been given away, so much has been treated so badly. But to keep peace, you really have to. I have a thing: strength through, and I mean it. You really have it. You have strength, and you need the strength. But it's really peace through strength, because without the strength, it's going to be very hard to have peace, because you're going to be taken over. Bad things are going to happen. So you really want to have peace through strength, and that's where I've done it. Having strength, having power in that sense to protect yourself and your people is a very important thing. Hopefully you don't have to use that power. I will tell you, I was dealing with President Putin very successfully on denuclearization. We were talking about it very seriously, and then COVID came and lots of things came, and we had also talked to China about it. Now, Russia and us have the biggest nuclear by far. China is not close, but they will be close. In 3 or 4 years or 5 years, they'll be equal. But we were going to talk to China, and I spoke to President Xi about it very successfully. I think we were going to denuclearize it. We would have had to get the smaller nuclear powers, of which there are 4, 3 maybe, but 4 probably, to do something. We would have been able to do that. But I was having very strong talks with President Putin about denuclearization. And, you know, if you're president, you get presentations about what we're building, what we're having, the power of weapons, the power of many things besides weapons per se. What I saw, the power of nuclear weapons, and we can never let that happen. If that happens, the ball game will be, the world will be destroyed. The power is so enormous. You look at Hiroshima, you look at Nagasaki, multiply that times 500 times, and the world would be destroyed. So you want somebody as your president, or you want somebody as your leader that understands that. We just can't let that happen. We can't let other countries get nuclear weapons. Not only Iran. Iran is a good example, and maybe the one that people think about, but we can't let that happen. The power of weaponry today is so enormous that the world would disintegrate, so we can't let it happen.
Mr. President, if you had to describe United States of America in just 3 words, what would they be?
In 3 words?
3 words.
Love, respect, and strength. That's a tough question. That might be my best answer, Yasser. That reminds me of high school, that one, but that may have been the toughest question, actually. Do you think Joe Biden could have done that? I don't think so. I don't think so.
We're almost at the end, Mr. President, but talking about United States of America, what is one cultural habit in the US business that the rest of the world could learn from? What is the best practice that
Well, I think we love our families, but I think a lot of the world loves their families. You know, I was speaking to the head of Mexico because I complain constantly about people pouring in. Now our border is the strongest border we've ever had. We've gone from the worst border ever in history to the strongest border. But I was speaking to the president of Mexico, a very wonderful woman, actually, and I said, we were talking about drugs. You can't let people come through your country and come into the country. You know, I was not that nice, but they understood what I was saying. And she said something that really got me. I said, you're not a big drug-taking nation? And she said, no, we are not a consumer. And I said, a consumer, what is, an interesting word. We're not a consumer nation. We're not a consumer of drugs. I said, what?
I like doing that too, John.
Why is
it was
that?
fun.
She said,
I had a lot of fun.
We have very strong family
it gave me
values.
that
I said, but we
warm
do too.
feeling of
we do too. We have very strong. Our families are
giving to others.
devastated by what's happening with fentanyl, and China will not be doing. We're going to make a deal with China. They were not letting that happen anymore. And I had a deal, by the way, before I left. I had a deal with President Xi where they were going to give the maximum penalty to anybody making fentanyl and sending it into the United States.
The bridge.
And their maximum penalty is the death penalty, and it would have stopped.
Yeah, we have to.
But when the election turned out to be a rigged election, but that's okay.
Canada has to get along with the states, regardless of what Trump is doing.
It was an election that shouldn't have happened.
We're still your friends. We're still friends.
I'll give you an example. We wouldn't have had October 7th, Israel attack. We wouldn't have had Ukraine and Russia fighting. We wouldn't have had inflation. We wouldn't have
Usually
had
when
all
adults
these things
do
that, happen. But in speaking with her,
pranks, it backfires.
She said about family values.
Yeah, it looked like I have a body
not
right
really
there.
saying anything there because we have great families too. We have great family values. She said, plus we advertise a lot. I said, ooh, you mean you advertise about how bad drugs are? Yes, we do. We spend a lot of money on advertising. And I said, unbelievable. That was such a great conversation because we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars advertising how bad drugs are so that kids don't use them, that they chew up your brain.
Oh, here we go. Coming in. Okay, well, I'm not going to get a music strike from whatever the song is there, but here comes Donald Trump. He's coming in. He's looking good. He's got his overcoat on, so he's going to give a little speech outside of the building, outside of the White House there. Here he comes. Looking good. 100% though. Can't beat that. Oh, yeah. He handshakes. Everyone in the audience is wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Where's my hat? Man, I should be wearing my Make Canada Great Again hat. Where's Trudeau? Trudeau is like hiding. Oh, there he is. There's Trudeau. He's hiding. Okay, let's hear from Trump. Let's go.
A lot of good things are happening for our country. Please sit down. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
April
oh, no.
2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. We're going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. American steelworkers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen, we have a lot of them here with us today. They really suffered gravely. They watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. We had an American dream that you don't hear so much about. You did 4 years ago, and you are now, but you don't too often, and for many years and decades even, you didn't hear too much about. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but
What?
it is not going to happen
We're
anymore.
not ripping you
It's
off.
going to happen.
Hey, you're paying a lot less for oil from Canada.
In a few moments, I will
below
sign a historic
market rate.
executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs
made a lot of
on
money.
countries throughout the world. Reciprocal. That means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple. Can't get any simpler than that. This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. For years, hardworking American citizens were forced to sit on the sidelines as other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense. But now it's our turn to prosper, and in so doing, use trillions and trillions of dollars to reduce our taxes and pay down our national debt, and it'll all happen very quickly. With today's action, we are finally going to be able to make America great again, greater than ever before. Jobs and factories will come roaring back into our country, and you see it happening already. We will supercharge our domestic industrial base. We will pry open foreign markets and break down foreign trade barriers. And ultimately, more production at home will mean stronger competition and lower prices for consumers. This will be indeed the golden age of America. It's coming back. We're going to come back very strongly. We're pleased to be joined on this momentous occasion
John, I
by
will.
Vice President
I
J.D.
will. Good
Vance.
idea.
J.D., thank you.
I'll go back to where the unit is there and talk to the girl we gave it to. Do an interview with her. That'd be
Where are
good.
you, J.D.? No, that wasn't too hard to find. I was looking, you know, he likes to take a low-key attitude, so it'd usually be sitting right in front. He's gaining a lot of confidence, Mike, isn't he? And nearly my entire cabinet is here, as well as Speaker Mike Johnson, who's done an amazing job.
Why boycott me?
And with the great success we had last night in Florida, we have a majority of 7. And 7's like a lot when we had it at 1, right? You've done a fantastic job. And many of the members of the House and Senate are with us. Senators, congressmen, thank you all for being with us. We appreciate it. For decades, the United States slashed our trade barriers on other countries, while those nations placed massive tariffs on our products and created outrageous non-monetary barriers. to decimate our industries, and in many cases, the non-monetary barriers were worse than the monetary ones. They manipulated their currencies, subsidized their exports, stole our intellectual property, imposed exorbitant VAT taxes to disadvantage our products, adopted unfair rules and technical standards, and created filthy pollution havens. They were absolutely filthy, but they always came to us and they said, we're violating, we should pay for it. It's all detailed in a very big report by the U.S. Trade Representative on foreign trade barriers, and I'll just hold it up for you. It's available, and you don't have to pay too much. As I understand it, you'll pay nothing. It's a lot of work for something, actually, because it's a special book. It's very, frankly, it's very upsetting when you read it, when you see what people have been doing to us for 30 years. This all happened with no response from the United States of America, none whatsoever. But those days are over. Let me offer just a few examples of the vicious attacks our workers have faced for so many years. The United States charges other countries only a 2.4 tariff on motorcycles. Meanwhile, Thailand and others are charging much higher prices, like 60%. India charges 70%. Vietnam charges 75%, and others are even higher than that. Likewise, until today, the United States has for decades charged a 2.5 tariff. Think of that, 2.5% on foreign-made automobiles. The European Union charges us more than
this is live now.
10% tariffs, and they have 20% VATs, much, much higher. India charges 70%, and perhaps worst of all are the non-monetary restrictions imposed by South Korea, Japan, and very many other nations. As a result of these colossal trade barriers, 81% of the cars in South Korea are made in South Korea. 94% of the cars in Japan are made in Japan. Toyota sells 1 million foreign-made automobiles into the United States, and General Motors sells almost none. Ford sells very little. None of our companies are allowed to go into other countries. And I say that, friend and foe. And in many cases, the friend is worse than the foe in terms of trade. But such horrendous imbalances have devastated our industrial base and put our national security at risk. I don't blame these other countries at all for this calamity. I blame former presidents and past leaders who weren't doing their job. They let it happen, and they let it happen to an extent that nobody can even believe. That's why, effective at midnight, we will impose a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles. Thank you. Brian, I'd like to have you come up here for a second, okay? I just see him sitting. He's been a fan of ours, and he understands this business a lot better than the economists, a lot better than anybody. Brian, say a few words, please, would you?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. It's a great honor to have you. Thank you.
The worker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I grew up just north of Detroit, Michigan, in Macomb County, known as the home of the Reagan Democrats. My first vote for president was for Ronald Reagan. I thought that was going to be the best president I ever saw in my lifetime until Donald J. Trump came along. I have watched my entire life, I have watched plant after plant after plant in Detroit and in the metro Detroit area close. There are now plants sitting idle. There are now plants that are underutilized, and Donald Trump's policies are going to bring product back into those underutilized plants. There's going to be new investment. There's going to be new plants built. And the UAW members, and I brought 20 of them with me, they're sitting right over here. We support Donald Trump's policies on tariffs 100%. So, Mr. President, we can't thank you enough. And in 6 months or a year, we're going to begin to see the benefits. I can't wait to see what's happening 3 or 4 years down the road. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much. Thank you. What a great guy. He got it right from the beginning. He got it before almost anybody else. This group over there, they got it too. And, you know, we won the state of Michigan.
Vive la Canada.
Almost all of them. But we won Michigan by a lot, and I want to just thank you all. The auto workers were fantastic. The Teamsters were fantastic. Everyone was Pretty good, I will tell you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hey, Tim,
You're going to
good
be
to see
very
you.
happy very soon, and you probably see
And,
what's happening with
Hamilton there,
all of
too.
the, not only car
Heidi.
companies, but car companies in particular. You see it with all of the ones they're moving, they're announcing day in, day out. You're seeing it. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. With today's actions, we're also standing up for our great farmers and ranchers who are brutalized by nations all over the world. Brutalized. Canada, by the way, imposes a 250 to 300% tariff on many of our dairy products. They do the first can of milk. They do the first little carton of milk at a very low price, but after that it gets bad, and then it gets up to 275, 300%. So when they're figuring what's Canada charging, they say, oh, about 2%, 3%. But take a look at what happens down the road. When you look a little bit, it's not a pretty picture, and we don't like it, and it's not fair. It's not fair to our farmers. It's not fair to our country. And with countries like Canada, you know, we subsidize a lot of countries and keep them going and keep them in business. In the case of Mexico, it's $300 billion a year. In the case of Canada, it's close to $200 billion a year. And I say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I mean, at what point do we say you got to work for yourselves, and you got to, this is why we have the big deficits. This is why we have that amount of debt that's been placed on our heads over the last number of years, and we're really not taking it anymore. Through non-tariff barriers, the European Union bans imports of most American poultry. You understand? They say, we want to send you our cars, we want to send you everything, but we're not going to take anything that you have. Australia bans, and they're wonderful people and wonderful everything, but they ban American beef, yet we imported $3 billion of Australian beef from them just last year alone. They won't take any of our beef. They don't want it because they don't want it to affect their farmers. And you know what? I don't blame them, but we're doing the same thing right now, starting about midnight tonight, I would say. And China charges American rice farmers an overquota, it's called, a tariff rate of 65%. South Korea charges 50, actually they charge different, from 50% to 513%. And Japan, our friend, charges us 700%. But that's because they don't want us selling rice, another thing. Who can blame them, Madam Secretary? Agriculture, great job you did on eggs, by the way. The egg prices came down 50%. You got them down 50%. Once we got involved, they were going through the sky. The egg prices, they were going through the sky, and you did a fantastic job. Now we have lots of eggs, and they're much cheaper, down about 59% now, and they're going down further. We charge 2.8% for so many things that other countries are charging 200%, 300%, and 400% for. If imposing tariffs and protective barriers made nations poor, then every country on earth would be racing to eliminate these policies, and China would be the first on line. They run a very strong country, but they're not first in line, and the American people are paying a very big price. From 1789 to 1913, we were a tariff-backed nation, and the United States was proportionately the wealthiest it has ever been. So wealthy, in fact, that in the 1880s, they established a commission to decide what they were going to do with the vast sums of money they were collecting. We were collecting so much money so fast, we didn't know what to do with it. Isn't that a nice problem to have? What do you think, Marco? Good problem? Marco would love that problem. But we don't have that problem anymore, but we're not going to have it very much longer, I will tell you. But they collected so much money, they actually formed a commission to determine what they were going to do with the money, who they were going to give it to, and how much. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they established the income tax so that citizens, rather than foreign countries, would start paying the money necessary to run our government. Then in 1929, it all came to a very abrupt end with the Great Depression, and it would have never happened if they had stayed with the tariff policy. It would have been a much different story. They tried to bring back tariffs to save our country, but it was gone. It was gone. It was too late. Nothing could have been done. It took years and years to get out of that depression, far longer than even FDR, had that office right over there for a long period of time. The ramp system, that's rather
you're okay, Al.
intricate, was built because of him, and every time you walk up, you think of him, and he did a great job in many ways, but it lasted long beyond his terms, as you know. But it's not too late any longer, and we're going to start being smart, and we're going to start being very wealthy again. We're going to be wealthy as a country because they've taken so much of our wealth away from us. We're not going to let that happen. We truly can be very wealthy. We can be so much wealthier than any country. It's not even believable, but we're getting smart. Nearly a century later, in the face of unrelenting economic warfare, the United States can no longer continue with a policy of unilateral economic surrender. We cannot pay the deficits of Canada, Mexico, and so many other countries. We used to do it. We can't do it anymore. We take care of countries all over the world. We pay for their military. We pay for everything they have to pay. And then when you want to cut back a little bit, they get upset that you're not taking care of them any longer. But we have to take care of our people, and we're going to take care of our people first. And I'm sorry to say that. And today we're standing up for the American worker, and we are finally putting America first. In Sleepy Joe Biden's last year in office, the United States hemorrhaged 100,000 manufacturing jobs, and the number was going through the roof at levels never seen before. And our trade deficit reached a record $1.2 trillion, which is unheard of. Since the beginning of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, it was a horror show. I was able to determine it. They all said you'd never be able to get it out. We had to get approval from Congress to get it terminated. We had to live with that deal. It was the worst trade deal ever made by far. But since the very beginning of NAFTA, our country lost 90,000 factories. Think of what that is, 90,000. Think about putting a map up, putting tax on it. You wouldn't have enough room. 90,000. I said, is that possible? We had it checked 4 different times, and it was actually somewhat higher than that. And 5 million manufacturing jobs were lost while racking up trade deficits of $19 trillion. That was the worst trade deal ever made. As a result of these gigantic losses, foreign nations now own $26 trillion more of American assets than think of this, than the Americans own of their own foreign assets.
$128,000 Canadian.
The United States can no longer produce enough antibiotics to treat our sick. We have a tremendous problem. We have to go to foreign countries to treat our sick. If anything ever happened from a war standpoint, we wouldn't be able to do it. We import virtually all of our computers, phones, televisions, and electronics.
We used to
dominate the field, and now we import it all from different countries. A single shipyard in China now produces more ships every year than all of the American shipyards combined. Think of that. And it was a business that we used to dominate. We used to dominate it totally. In short, chronic trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life. It's a very great threat to our country. And for these reasons, starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. It's been a long time since we even thought of that. We used to think about it a lot. We didn't think about it for many decades, and you see what's happened. For nations that treat us badly, we will calculate the combined rate of all their tariffs, non-monetary barriers, and other forms of cheating. And because we are being very kind, we're kind people.
No dairy,
Very kind.
We have such high tariffs on dairy in Canada. That's what pissed them off. That's what got them started.
Auto worker friends and my
dairy.
Teamster friends and
after a certain amount, 200% tariff. Come on.
Typically voted Democrat. They're not voting Democrat anymore because worker, whether union or non-worker, they're for the Republicans now. That's what happened. But we will charge them approximately half of what they are and have been charging us. So the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that, yes, but it would have been tough for a lot of countries who didn't want to do that. I'd like to see the chart if you have it. Could you bring it up, Howard? This is our great Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick.
Howard Lutnick. Oh, yeah.
So if you look at that China, first row.
can't touch
China, 67%. That's tariffs
You can't touch this.
charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So it's 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be, because we never charge anybody anything, but now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You know, you think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially
Good to see
half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they make,
Well,
they
get a credit
took all
card
of
then.
our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it.
Yeah, I'll tell you
Now
how
we
much
have
money I
almost
make
none
from
of
the
it,
credit
except
card
the biggest
commercials
company is
on
coming
my
in. They're
next
going to
stream,
have, we're going to
okay?
end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually, they're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But
Still expensive,
64%,
Dashin.
we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough. Great people. And again, I don't blame the people for doing it.
Great comments,
I think they're
Bob
very smart in
Cox.
doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46% and much higher for certain items like cars, you know, little items like cars. 46%, we're charging them 24%. India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left, and he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades, and it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China and charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs, and they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand, and the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have
Tariffs
to go through a
are
little
what
tough
you
love,
pay.
maybe,
It's like
but they all
the
understand.
country
They're
that you're
ripping us off, and they
imposing the
understood it.
tariff doesn't pay
Prime
anything.
Minister
It's your
of
people
Japan,
within your country that pay.
Shinzo Abe. He was a fantastic man. He was unfortunately taken from us, assassination. But I went to him and I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. Trade is not fair. And he said, I know that. I know that. And he was a great gentleman. He was a fantastic man, but he understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. He said, I know that. And we worked out a deal, and it would have been a much better deal, but frankly, there were many years left in the deal that was made previous to my getting there, but it was something. If you look at Switzerland, 61% to 31%. Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America. United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things
What about
going on in
Canada?
South Africa. You know, we're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. Brazil, 10%, 10%. Bangladesh is 74%. So you see what's going on. Pakistan, 58%. Sri Lanka, 88%. So what we're doing is we're taking not the full, we could take the full 88%. Thanks a lot, Howard. He's doing a very good job. How's he doing? all
Yeah,
right?
they got fresh water.
I think you
and
better
I
take
put
it
some,
with you. It's not going to last
seed
very
out
long.
there and some bread.
He's going to put it, it's going to follow you
brown
down with
bread
the
they
wind.
like.
I brought a
Got
hat
some
just
meat
in
in there
case
or
it got
something.
too windy, but here, would anybody like a hat? I'm not giving it to a cabinet. I'm giving it to the auto workers. Come here.
Can't believe how popular you are today, Angie. Jeepers. really
Thank
stirred,
you, fellas.
stirred the pot
Yeah,
there.
that's it. That's it.
She's the new Mona.
They deserve it more than our cabinet. Our cabinet has plenty of hats. But you see the numbers. The numbers are so disproportionate. They're
Hammer
so
time.
unfair. At the same time, we will
Happy
establish a
Liberation
minimum
Day.
baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart? And that'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating. So we're going to have a minimum of cheating, and we're going to be very severe on the people that at the
Jimmy
gate
Hoffa.
that watch the tariffs and watch the product coming
Got
in,
cement
because there's
boots
been
on.
a lot of bad things happening at the gate because the money is so enormous that you're talking about. There's never been probably anything like it in terms of the enormity, and there are a lot of bad things happen at the people that do the check-in, and they're looking at 10-year jail sentences if they do play. We're going to treat them so good, but if they cheat,
Maybe
the
it's Daisy's turn
repercussions
now.
are going to be extremely strong. Foreign nations will finally be asked to pay for the privilege of access to our market, the biggest market in the world. We're right now the biggest market in the world. We had a great country 4 years ago in terms of the economics. We were doubling up on China. We were doing so well. Nobody was going to catch us, but so much of it slipped away over the last 4 years under Biden. I campaigned on this policy throughout last year, and today that promise was made, and it was also a promise, as you know, that was kept. Promises made, promises kept. To any company that objects to our common sense reciprocal tariffs, again, reciprocal, back and forth, back and forth. And I call this kind reciprocal. This is not full reciprocal. This is kind reciprocal. But what we do is we cut it in half. We charge them. My answer is very simple if they complain. If you want your tariff rate to be zero, then you build your product right here in America, because there is no tariff if you build your plant, your product in America. And we've seen companies coming in like we've never seen before. Likewise to all of the foreign presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, ambassadors, and everyone else who will soon be calling to ask for exemptions from these tariffs. I say, terminate your own tariffs, drop your barriers, don't manipulate your currencies. They manipulate their currencies like nobody can even believe, which is a bad, bad thing and very devastating to us. And start buying tens of billions of dollars of American goods. Tariffs give our country protection against those that would do us economic harm. And many people were looking to do us economic harm. Maybe not so obviously, but they were doing tremendous economic harm. But even more importantly, they will give us growth. These tariffs are going to give us growth like you haven't seen before. And it'll be something very special to watch. I am so looking forward. And Brian, it's going to happen even faster than you said. You know, you might say, but it's already started. It's already started. Work's already begun on plants all around the country. And you see that as before. These are big, rich companies. We have $61 billion started on a big plant going up. It's going to be announced over the next 2 days, and they already started work. Many of these the biggest companies in the world, they've committed to build, build, build. We're going to build, build, sir. And they came here to see me, and they wanted to know if they could have a press conference. I do as many as I can. I'm pretty busy trying to stop Russia and Ukraine and the Middle East. We got to stop that. We got to stop the Houthis, which we're making tremendous. Yeah. They like shooting ships down and out of the water, sinking ships.
Well, and
they get a kick out of it, but they're not getting such a kick out of it now, are they, Mr. Secretary? They're not getting such a kick out of it now.
Wasn't a real thing, apparently.
But here are just a short list of some of the companies that have already announced and committed to investment. And this is a company that built its factories and its plants in China. Apple is going to spend $500 billion. They never spent money like that here.
Wow.
They're going to build their plants here.
Oh, moving from China back to the States.
AI, and Oracle.
It's already working.
Great companies are investing $500 billion almost immediately. NVIDIA, a hot company, is investing hundreds of billions of dollars.
Or I give you a wrench telescope.
TSMC, the biggest, most important company in the world of chips from Taiwan, with no investment from us, is investing
Zion,
200
Don.
billion. And they
Wow.
said the reason was, number one, the election of November 5th, and number two, the tariffs. They don't want to pay the tariffs, and the way they're not paying it is to build their plant
Remember,
here. So
my
we're
chat
gonna go
is not
from
about
almost
Angie.
no percentage. We used to have 100% of the chip market. Now it's all in
About
Taiwan.
Donald Trump
Almost
here
all of it's
today.
in Taiwan. A couple of other countries, but mostly in Taiwan. And think of it, we had 100%. We lost it because of people in that office that didn't do their job. They allowed it to be stolen
Hammer
from
time.
us. Johnson
It's
&
hammer
Johnson,
time.
great company, $55 billion. Eli Lilly, $27 billion. Meta is investing $500 billion.
Meta.
Wow.
That's Zuckerberg.
DeMac is investing $20 billion. CMA, CGM, $20 billion. And then you have Merck and Clarios, Stellantis, General Motors, GE Aerospace, Honda, Nissan, Hyundai are all putting in billions and billions of dollars, and they're committed 100%. So.
What kind of cars are they building anyway?
And we've never had,
gonna be
and this
electric?
is after 2.5 months. This is after just a short, this all took place as soon as we came out with what everybody wanted to do. You know, I watched a gentleman today on television, he used to work with Lee Iacocca, a very respected automobile person, and he said, you know, because they were asking people, they try and get as many negative people as they can, but they can't find them too much. It's pretty hard to find in terms of what we're doing, especially when they see all this investment. They said, so tell me, what do you think of what Trump is doing from the automobile standpoint? He said, I can't believe it. Somebody is finally, he's an older guy, real pro, really top guy, with Lee Iacocca. He said, I never thought I'd see the day when this would happen, where somebody had the courage to go and do what has to be done. This is transforming our nation. Our entire nation is going to be transformed, not only with the cars.
I have a ticker here
but
that
in
shows
every
234
single other
people
item
watching.
That's built. We're going to become an industrial powerhouse. And he said that so beautifully
Remember, I'm
today.
on 3 platforms.
I'm going to find out. I'm going to get a tape. And Bruce, I'm going to get that tape and I'm going to send it to you out in Long Island, and you're going to play it for the people and all your union workers and your non-union workers out there. You got a pretty even split. But we have, so far, it looks like we're going to have about $6 trillion of investments, and you wouldn't do that in years in this country over the last number of years. $6 trillion, and that's going to be much higher by the end of the year. And think of what $6 trillion is. You wouldn't have even a small percentage of that under this other system. We're going to be an entirely different country, and it's going to be fantastic for the workers. It's going to be fantastic for everyone. There will never have been a transformation of a country like the transformation that's already happening in the United States of America. It's an incredible thing to watch, and it's incredible to meet with the top
transformed
people,
up here in
that
Canada,
you read
too,
about,
at the
very
same
wealthy
time.
people, or people that are great managers and executives and presidents of big public companies. And to watch the enthusiasm they have now that they didn't have. They gave up on our country. They went to foreign countries and they built. Companies are pouring into our country at levels never seen before, with jobs and money to follow, and it's really beautiful. In the coming days, there will be complaints from the globalists and the outsourcers and special interests and the fake news. Always, the fake news will always complain. But never forget, every prediction our opponents made about trade for the last 30 years has been proven totally wrong. They were wrong about NAFTA. They were wrong about China. They were wrong about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been a disaster if I didn't terminate it. If I didn't terminate that, United Auto Workers, you would have had no jobs in this country. You would have had no jobs. It was all going to other countries. In my first term, they said tariffs would crash the economy. Instead, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. And again, I have great respect for President Xi of China, great respect for China, but they were taking tremendous advantage of us, and I commend them for that. I say,
Hit that
hey,
like
you
button.
can get away with it, that's okay. But, you know, they understand exactly what's happening, and they probably, most of them are saying it's about time they did something, but, and they're going to
Tuning in
fight
from
with it.
Australia,
Everyone's gonna
Dean
fight
Matthews
it.
on X. Hey, good to see you.
I say to the leaders,
A
look,
lot
you
of
gotta
our
take care of your
comments
country,
are
but we
coming
have
in
to
from
start taking
YouTube there,
care
by
of
the
our
way.
country now.
But nice to
We
see you
can't
on
do what
X.
we've been doing for the last 50 years.
Coming in from
the
Australia,
day
Dean.
of my election, the stock market went up in my first term 88%, with NASDAQ going up 155%, more than any president has ever had in any term in office, by far. And I think we're going to blow that away. And maybe the numbers won't show, but I think they're going to show much better than even those numbers. But what you're going to see is you're going to see activity, that empty, dead sites, factories that are falling down. Those factories will be knocked down, and they're going to have brand new factories built in their place. They're not only talking about renovating, they're talking about
Taco Wednesday.
Brand new, the best anywhere in the world, the biggest anywhere in the world. I have a friend who builds car plants.
Wednesday
and I
is
said, I want to see the biggest and the
pizza and
best. He
sex
said, well,
night.
we have to go to Mexico. I said, no, I want to see it in the United States. He said, we're not building them in there. This is a year and a half ago during the campaign. He said, we're not building it. You have to go to Mexico. When I was starting to decide to run, and I went to #1 in the polls very rapidly, I want to say.
China.
Like, let's say in the first hour. And then shortly
That's them
thereafter,
that
it looked
did
like
that.
I
It
was
was
going
the
to win,
feed.
and
The echo was
the
on
fake
the
news
feed.
was saying, "Oh
I didn't
no,
do
don't
that.
do this." What they don't know
They
is
did
if
it,
I didn't
then they
win, they
fixed
would
it.
have really been in trouble.
I think they made it
Because
stereo.
nobody wants to read them anyway. But I tell you what, when it looked like I was going to win, I announced that I was going to be doing exactly what we're talking about today. Great consistency, actually, because I've been talking about it for 40 years. But because I saw what was happening 40 years ago. If you look at my old speeches when I was young, very handsome. My old speeches, and that people would say I'd be on a television show, I'd be talking about how we were being ripped off by these countries. I mean, nothing changes very much. The only thing that changed were the countries, but nothing really changes. But it's why it's such an honor. It's such an honor to be finally able to do this. If you look at China, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in my term, hundreds of billions. They never paid 10 cents to any other president, and yet they paid hundreds of billions, so much so that Biden couldn't do anything. They wanted to try and terminate it because he had a very special relationship with China. You know what the relationship was? He had a special relationship.
Maybe, John.
But the numbers were so big. The numbers were so big that they couldn't do it. So they did ease it up. They did things that they shouldn't have done. They made it a lot more comfortable for them, but they couldn't do it because the numbers were hundreds of billions of dollars, and I did that. And we were on our way to doing something like incredible. And then we had a very bad election happen, a very bad election. A lot of bad things happened. So when I said we got to do it again, I said we have to make it too big to rig. And we made it too big to rig, and we won in records, and it was a monumental win. And it was such an honor to see so many of you, like Brian and your friends, here with us to celebrate, and to more importantly celebrate what we're doing, because that wouldn't be a full celebration if we didn't do this, because this will be an entirely different country in a short period of time.
25%.
It'll be something the whole world will be talking about it. The critics made the very tired predictions earlier this year, but in February, core inflation dropped to the lowest rate in 4 years. And the price of eggs, as you know, just in a month and a half, we were there for 4 weeks. And the first week, I got blamed for eggs. I said, I just got here. They said eggs have gone up at like 250%, and you can't get eggs. And they were going crazy. And I said, I just got here.
That denture commercial.
And then we got to work on eggs. And we got to work on everything. And our great Secretary of Agriculture, you did a fantastic job. Brooke Rollins, she did a fantastic job.
That's because the average age of people hanging out on my channel is about 50.
As I said before, the price of eggs dropped now 59%, and they're going down more, and the availability is fantastic. They were saying that for Easter, please don't use eggs. Could you use plastic eggs? I said, we don't want to do that. We want to, and you really came through. It's an amazing job. Thank you very much, Brooke. You did great. But likewise, an old-fashioned term that we use, groceries. I used it in the campaign. It's such an old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term, groceries. It sort of says a bag with different things in it. Groceries went through the roof, and I campaigned on that. I talked about the word groceries for a lot, and energy costs now are down. Groceries are down. Gasoline is way under $3, and people are beginning to be able to buy things and live again. We brought prices way down. We created 10,000 already in a few weeks, new manufacturing jobs. And it was that took place in 1 month. numbers that they haven't seen in a long time. We had virtually
That's
no
pretty good.
inflation under my term. We had virtually no inflation for 4 years, but after transitioning over to Sleepy Joe, it went from almost non-existent to the highest in the history of our country. They're the highest inflation in the history of our country, brought up by energy and bad spending and bad policy, and a lot of bad things happened. How about allowing millions and millions and millions of people to pour into our country with open borders, where it's so sad to see even now, and I see our great secretary you have done, stand up please, Christy, stand up. Christy Noem.
We're over on X
Tom
here right
Homan.
now.
These people are doing a great job, but
Got about
got them out of
147
records.
people
We
watching
have
on
problems
X
with
right now.
judges that don't
Thanks
want
a lot
them
for
to go
watching.
out. They want Trend
Tuning in, you can
Iraqua.
chime in the chat
They
there.
want,
Hit the
MS-13,
hit the
most
screen and
vicious
it'll bring up the
gangs
chat
ever.
box and you
Nobody's
can
ever
chat
seen
there.
anything like it. Absolute killer gangs. They kill people. They don't even think about it.
Good to
And
see
we
One
put them out,
Game
and we have
Club in
judges
there.
now, radical left judges that want to. They don't want them to go out. They want them to even be brought back. Let's bring them back. You've done a fantastic job, and please thank everybody. Homeland Security, thank everybody. Appreciate it. And we now have a border that's the best border that we've ever had, even better than it was my first term. My first term we did good, but this one we really specialized in. We've done really well. And we had records then. We had the best, safest border. 4 years ago, we had the best border there ever was. And now we have, you've actually matched it and done even better. And we're going to get it down the right way. And we want people, by the way, to come into our country.
Damn,
but we
I'm
want them
good.
to come in through a legal process. We want them to come in legally. We need more people. We need people to run these plants and to help the auto workers and the Teamsters and the non-union people and everybody else. But we need people and the farmers. And we're going to let people come in, but they want to come in. We want them to come in legally. They have to have the capability of loving our country, not people that hate our country. We don't want them in our country. And now we're going to pass the largest tax cuts in American history, and that's where we're relying on Mike and John Thune. And we will not cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid benefits, and the Democrats will, because if they got in, the
149
entire
on
economy
X.
would collapse. This country was heading for a collapse.
Total
Under
238
the people
watching.
that you saw. They were horrible. I think one of the reasons people like the job, I have my highest approval ratings because I think they're comparing me to the worst administration in the history of our country, so I appreciate that at least. But Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader, appreciate it, Mike. John Thune have been fantastic.
Yeah,
by
you
the
guys
way.
watch. Look after yourselves in the
But
chat.
they've been
'cause I
working
can't.
tirelessly on
can't
taking
monitor
the
the
next
chat.
step to pass the plan for our one big, beautiful bill. I'd like to name it that if you can.
Oh,
One
look, it's
big,
bullets
I made
over
that
on
statement
X.
about 6 months ago,
Tell
and
all my
everybody
fans
calls it
hi.
one big, beautiful bill. And it will be
There's
that.
bullets.
It'll have everything, the big tax cuts and
He's
every
watching.
incentive there is. And it'll be fantastic. And by the way, for the cars, we're asking for an interest deduction on a loan. So if you build the car only in America, we do it, Brian. If the car's
Slow
not
chat
built in
over on
America, you
X,
don't get
but
the interest
I'm
rate
getting a number at
deduction.
149
But if you build
I don't
the
know where the
car
hell
in
that- what
America,
that
if you
number's
buy
all
a car,
about.
if it's built in America,
on X.
then you get an interest rate deduction, tax deduction, and it's a
244
big thing. It's going to be a big thing. I think
total
that's
in
going to
the
pay for
House.
itself very quickly, that deduction. Never happened. We've never had anything like that
Bullets
before.
in
Somebody
there.
said, where do you
Good
get
to
the
see you,
idea?
bullets.
Because it's so basic. You would think that would have happened a long time ago. It never did, and I'm very happy it didn't, because now I can say that was my idea. But we're going to get us closer to the debt
It's Charlie.
extension. We have to get the debt extension passed.
We're
and I know
buying
you're
a
gonna be able
meme
to do
coin
that,
off of
Mike, and
Trump's
it's very
today.
important that you do that.
Apparently.
And all of the other things that the Senate budget plan gives us, along with working, because I know they're working together, John and Mike, and the two bills are going very well together. We need to get our shared priorities done, including certain permanent tax cuts. We want the tax cuts to be permanent, spending cuts, energy and historic investments in defense, border, and so much more. We're covering everything. These will be phenomenal. There'll be no bill like this going to straighten. One bill is going to straighten out our country for many, many years to come. And we said, let's just do it and let's get it done. And some guys will love it and some guys will like it a little bit less because they're not getting what they were exactly looking for, but they're getting a lot. They'll never, if we get this done, it'll be the most incredible bill ever passed in the history of our Congress and Senate and congressmen, the senators and the congressmen, many of whom are here today, will be very proud of themselves. I really believe that it's going to set us on a whole new prosperous path. We're going to cut spending and right-size the budget back to where it should be. We're going to do that very strongly. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. John, thank you. Oh, look at all of our senators over there. Oh, boy, that's a nice group of people. But I won't like them so much if they don't get this bill done. That's a great group, and Congressman, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Tremendous people. The Senate plan is my complete and total support, and the House plan likewise is very similar. They're moving along pretty much at the same clip, and as soon as you're ready, you'll show it to me, and I'm sure it'll have my support.
I'm not buying one. I'll actually
Every
make one.
Republican congressman and senator
I'll make a Tommy Temper
must
meme
unify. We have to
coin.
unify. We can't be separated. We have to get it done. We have to get absolutely
But I'll
everything
put some
we
cash
can.
into
We have
it,
to
so it'll
take
be a
care of
real
the
one,
American people.
not
That's
a
the only
fake
thing
one.
that matters. We have to take care of the American people first. We need to pass this bill immediately, get it done, including debt extension. From this day on, we're not going to let anyone tell us that American workers and families cannot have the future that they deserve. We're going to produce the cars and ships, chips, airplanes, minerals, and medicines that we need right here in America. The pharmaceutical companies are going to become roaring back. They're coming roaring back. They're all coming back to our country, because if they don't, they got a big tax to pay. And if they do, I'll be very happy, and you're going to be very happy, and you're going to be very safe. We're going to build our future with American hands, with American heart, American steel, and we're going to build it with American pride like we used to. We're approaching our 100th day as president, and have been given credit by a lot of
100.
people, actually, even some of the fake news.
Been
Can
there
you
for a
believe it?
while already.
Which in this case hopefully isn't fake, for having done more in that time than any other administration in the history of our country in the first 100
TikTok.
days. I think we've had an amazing, in terms of what we've done, what we've gotten accomplished. I'd like to see if we can get that war ended and another war from not starting in the Middle East. We have to get Russia. They're losing 2,000
Hap
on
in there.
average, 2,500 people today, young people, soldiers, Russian. Think of that.
Got to keep the price on drugs
2,500
down, yeah.
through some
Exactly.
days, but on average, probably over about a 1 week period, it's 2,712, they say. They're losing those soldiers. They're dying. They're being decimated. And they're not from our country, but they're from other countries. But they're human beings. They're from Russia. They're from Ukraine in this period, most of them. And we're going to get it
Hey,
stopped.
Mossad,
It's
you got a message
senseless
from
war that
Bullets
would have never
on
happened if I
X.
was president, and it shouldn't be allowed to go on. And I think we're being given good cooperation by Russia and by Ukraine, but we have to get it stopped. It's humanity. It's humanity. It's a terrible thing. This will be a very big moment. I think you're going to remember today. It's going to be a free nation that we're dealing with. We're going to have a very free and beautiful nation. It's going to be Liberation Day in America, and it's going to be a day that hopefully you're going to look back in years to come and you're going to say,
Oh,
you
no,
know, he
not
was right. This
Liberation
has
Day.
turned
That's
out
going to be
be
bad
one
for
of the most
Canada.
important days in the history of our country. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, it looks like, I wonder if he's going to answer questions from the media. I wonder if he will. We'll just wait and see, but it might be finished.
Good afternoon, you all. We have two documents prepared for the president's signature today. One closes what's referred to as the de minimis loophole with respect to imports from the People's Republic of China.
Going to close a loophole.
The other
Chinese
is
loophole.
the big one is the reciprocal tariff executive order that the president just spoke about at length. This is obviously a huge deal, and it's been an honor to be a part of your team getting this ready for you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. This is big stuff.
What's he doing? He's signing something there. Barbaric Frosty. Man, you're coming in here with all your alts today. Everyone should be nice to everyone.
That's a 10. That's a good one. Look. That's a good one. That's a good one. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Brett. Go over to X if you get timed out again. Because nobody gets timed out over on X. But I have to bring the comments on the screen. That's the only problem.
Okay,
May or
thank
may
you
not
very much.
bring
I'm going to
your
hand out these
comments
pens now, if I can. Come on
Yeah,
over.
it's almost snack time. I think I'm going to have
Thank you very much.
I'm going to have an Aussie Bite. I have something called Aussie Bites here left. Look at Aussie Bites and their little kind of biscuity things there. Uh-oh. It's another music strike. Hang on. Let's put on our own music here. There. You guys are going to get sick of listening to that. But I don't want to have Donald Trump's music because it will give me a strike. Hey, he's giving you the old one-handed pump. There's the guy with the hat on there, the industrial guy. He's smurfing it out there with the Make Canada Great, or Make America Great Again guys there, the audience. Wow, and that was it. I don't know what to say. Thanks for joining. It was fun. Otherwise, things are normal over here. Not much happening in the studio. Just business as usual down here. So, what did you think of the whole event? I don't know. He didn't really say much more than I already knew, or that we already knew, which is the fact that he's going to slap a 25% tariff on goods coming from Canada to the United States. Of course, there are some aberrations there that have been worked out already with the automotive industry and automotive parts and things like that. So those are going to be, things that we're going to come up with in the future, because everything is like being done and sort of in secret or whatever. But sooner or later we'll come up with that. The big thing is now that as far as Canada goes, now that the big 25% tariff has come up against goods coming from Canada, and I believe it's 10% on energy, oil, stuff like that. You're going to pay more for stuff come from Canada. That's all there is to it. So, and stuff come from all over the world. So if you live in the United States, it's almost like somebody has said, all products coming from other countries are going to cost you more, right? That's what you're really seeing. Up here in Canada, is it hurting us? Yeah. If you're making peanuts and you're sending them to the States, yeah, they're going to be taxed 25%, whereas they may not have had any tax on them before. So there's that. The other thing is in 2 days' time, I believe it's going to be on the 4th of April, Canada is going to be coming up with the so-called retaliatory tariffs, which means we're going to be putting up tariffs against goods coming from the United States. Not everything. It won't be a blanket tariff, but it will be a selective tariff. And the way it has been described is that it is products that basically can be produced within Canada. So let's listen to hear what Pierre, if Pierre is elected and becomes our prime minister, then Pierre will have a bit of talk, or speech rather. He can talk about what's happening here with regards to tariffs on coming on us, and what Canada may potentially do tariff-wise to the Americans. So let's listen to Pierre Poilievre.
And anxious after the president's unprovoked attacks on our sovereignty. We're left wondering how we can end the paralyzing uncertainty and what the future holds. We don't know what today's tariff announcement will bring, how long they will last, or what they will do.
Hey, Otis.
But whatever President Trump does, a bunch of things remain undeniably true. One, these tariffs are unjustified. Two, they will hurt people and businesses on both sides of the border. And three, Canada will obviously never be the 51st state. But we need a plan going forward, a plan that is both strong and effective.
Don't do that, Brett.
And I want to break that down into three parts. Obviously, one, we need an immediate response. Two, we need to tackle the dispute after the election, hopefully to bring it to an end.
You can talk over an X, too.
But three, perhaps most important of all, we need a long-term plan to build our economic fortress in Canada so we are never vulnerable to these kinds of threats again. First, our immediate response must be targeted reciprocal tariffs, targeted narrowly at those American goods we don't need, can make ourselves, or buy elsewhere to maximize impact on the Americans while minimizing impact on ourselves. Secondly, we must be prepared to protect jobs. Keeping Canadians working should be our top priority. And that's why we need to focus on maintaining the link. If a worker loses his job, it's much harder, longer, and actually more expensive for the government to try and get him back into employment than it is to try and keep him working in the interim period while this dispute is on.
Later, boss.
The Conservative government, if elected at the end of this month, will launch a Keeping Canadians Working Fund, a targeted temporary loan program for businesses that are directly hit, helping them keep workers on the job. Very similar to the type of program that John Barrett initiated when we were in the Harper government during the great global recession. Binding people to their jobs, keeping their paychecks going while we can get through this trade dispute will help keep the horizon bright and keep our economy stable. But where do we go from there? The second part of the plan is we have to try to end this trade dispute. There's no guarantee, but we have to try. On day one, as Prime Minister, I will propose to the President to accelerate renegotiations of CUSMA, bringing in a new deal on trade and security. CUSMA must be renegotiated anyway, next year. Why wait? Why not get it done now? Why not end the uncertainty that is paralyzing both sides of the border and that is also costing us jobs today? We should set a firm date to finalize a new deal. And I will propose that both countries pause tariffs while we hammer out that deal. Keeping destructive tariffs in place kills jobs on both sides of the border and so serves no purpose at all. It does not make sense to go on killing jobs, disrupting markets, and weakening both our economies with on-again, off-again tariffs for months on end as Canadian businesses and workers live in paralyzed terror. In the meantime, during negotiations, suspension of tariffs would have to go both ways. Either they take them off or we would not. We would require this to be fully reciprocal as we work towards getting a deal. And as for the deal itself, any good negotiator would tell you that he wouldn't put his cards on the table before sitting down to talk. But Canadians do have a right to know what our red lines are. As I said, Canadians have the right to know what red lines I will draw in order to protect our country in these inevitable negotiations that any future Prime Minister will have to have and have quickly. So let me be clear. First, I will protect our control over our border, our security, our resources, our farmers, including our supply-managed farmers, our fresh water, our automotive workers. Also, we will protect our sovereignty, our laws, our currency, our dollar, our land, our waters, our sky, our culture, our official languages, and our resources and Indigenous rights will not be under the control of any other country. This is non-negotiable. We will protect Canada's sovereignty in any negotiations.
That's discombobulated.
Second, for years, the Americans have demanded we do more on defense. But the truth is, Canadians have been demanding exactly the same thing.
We have to build up
So
our
I will
military in
commit
Canada.
that any extra revenue generated from expanded trade with the United States will go right into our armed forces. We will hit our 2%. We will take back control of our Arctic waters from the Chinese and the Russians. We will rebuild our military and will become a truly sovereign nation with a strong armed forces that can protect us. We will not do this to please President Trump. We will do it because it is right for Canada, especially in light of America's growing ambivalence towards NATO. It is important for Canada to step up and show its strength. Canada will carry its own weight. We will secure the North. We will put more boots on the ground, submarines and ships in the sea, and planes in the air. Americans will be able to sleep sound at night, knowing that we fully defend our North. It will also allow us to improve NORAD, to deter, detect, and destroy incoming threats to our shared security. Third, while we will agree to work with the Americans to secure our border on fentanyl and illegal migration, I'll also demand that they do their part to stop sending illegal guns across our border that kill our people.
Yeah, stop the guns. And we'll stop sending fentanyl.
Now, how do we ensure that President Trump keeps his side of the bargain?
AIDS.
How can we trust that he'll honor any new agreement when, let's be honest, he violated the last one, the one he negotiated?
I didn't block you.
Well,
I don't block
that's
people.
the situation we're now in. We must make sure that the next deal has commitments that we make on defense, border cooperation, and market access that we can withdraw if and when he decides to break the deal and tariff us again. We will hold up our end of the bargain only as long as he holds up his.
Yeah, Jack, it was over on YouTube
that is how we create the leverage
apparently
to protect against a president suddenly changing his mind and breaking his word. Well, we can't control what the president does.
So Brett's over on
my father isn't a particularly religious man, but he did teach me the Serenity Prayer. God help me to accept the things I cannot change, change the things I can, and have the wisdom to know the difference. And we know that we can't control the decisions the president makes, but we know we can control the decisions we make about our own destiny here at home. The president will have a fork in the road. Either he'll continue to hold the threat of tariffs over our heads for the next 3.5 years, or we'll secure a deal that provides permanent relief to our economies, now paralyzed by uncertainty. We don't know which way he'll go. So Canada must be prepared either way. A renewed trade deal with the Americans would be ideal, but it's not the entire solution to our economy. A credible plan to deal with Trump must prepare Canada for growth with or without reliable trade with the Americans. Unfortunately, after the lost Liberal decade, we are in an unprecedented position of weakness. Our economy is stagnant. Our workers are poorer. Our industry has been left exposed to President Trump's threats. And let's be clear about this.
Chicken, eggs, and raw milk, Tank.
We have had the single worst growth of any country in the G7 over the last Liberal decade.
That's what the protectionism is.
The worst part of that growth happened while Mark Carney was Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. In fact, our per capita GDP is smaller than it was 5 years ago, while the American per capita GDP has grown by 18%. We are projected to have the slowest growth of all of the nearly 40 OECD nations, and that is after 10 years of the Liberals in power. In the first 14 years of this century, Canada had a net investment of American dollars in Canada of about $30 to $100 billion, depending on the year. Right now, after the last Liberal decade, there are $500 billion more Canadian dollars invested in America than the reverse. $500 billion has poured out of our economy into the U.S. We are more dependent and helpless than ever before, precisely because of the policies that Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau have imposed in this lost decade.
Can't give an example.
At this pivotal moment, I think Canadians have to ask a question. Why is Donald Trump so supportive of Mark Carney? Why is Trump anointed Carney the winner of the next election? Do you think it's because Trump has Canada's best interests at heart when he says that he'd rather negotiate with a Liberal government? Or is he thinking about what he can get at Canada's expense? Here's what I think. Donald Trump knows that a fourth Liberal term under Mark Carney will make Canada even weaker and poorer than it was over the last decade, more dependent on American markets and vulnerable to his threats. He knows Mr. Carney is opposed to turning Canada into an energy superpower. He knows that Liberal agenda blocking energy production and pipeline construction will keep his Donald Trump's thumb over our economy. In fact, Mr. Carney actually said, and I'm quoting here,
look, we're friends
more
with
than
Charlie,
80% of current fossil fuel reserves would need to stay in the ground. Now, obviously, he means Canadian oil reserves. There would be more oil produced south of the border, profiting the Americans and making us weaker and more reliant. Trump knows that Mr. Carney will keep Justin Trudeau's industrial carbon tax on Canadian industry, as well as Trudeau's cap on Canadian energy, driving business south. And just yesterday, Mark Carney gave a wonderful gift to Donald Trump. He announced he will keep the Liberal No New Pipelines Law C-69 in place.
Yeah.
Bill C-69 guarantees there will never again be a pipeline, LNG plant, large-scale mine, or nuclear project built in this country. It will send hundreds of billions of dollars fleeing south of the border to Trump's America and force us to continue to sell our oil and gas at massive price discounts. When you consider that Mark Carney's Keep It in the Ground agenda will make us even more dependent on the United States, it becomes pretty clear why Trump wants the Liberals to win a fourth term. The last thing that President Trump wants is a strong Canadian Prime Minister who will turn this country around, turning our country into an economic and resource powerhouse with competitive taxes that is open for business. That might not be good for President Trump, but it is exactly how you put Canada first.
No way. He better win, or else we're doomed in Canada. Alberta will separate. Right? Really?
The choice in the next election is clear. After the lost Liberal decade, can we afford a fourth term of rising costs and crime and falling economy under America's thumb?
That's the problem.
Is it time for a change with a new Conservative government that will put Canada first? A government that will unleash our resources, cut taxes for our workers, bring home our jobs, and stand up to the Americans from a position of strength. That's the decision. That's the decision.
240 in the House.
That part we do control. Only we control our natural resources, our tax policy, our competitiveness, and whether Canadians keep more of what they earn and save. The story of Canada
be like Quebec.
Is a story of doing big things, of ambitious projects that bind the nation together, uniting us as a people and securing our sovereignty. That's what Brian Mulroney did when he negotiated free trade. That's what John A. Macdonald did with the railway. Canada was not handed to our ancestors. They had to work and sacrifice for it.
Sticks and stones.
Whether we were born here or chose to come, we are their heirs. And we have a duty to defend what our ancestors gave us, to build an even better Canada to leave to our children. That is our purpose. That is what we will do. We need our country to think big again. It's time to challenge ourselves, because decline is a choice. But it's not my choice. I choose to build. I choose to grow. I choose to meet the moment with ambition worthy of the men and women who built this great country. My plan for the Canadian economy could not be more different than what you've seen over the lost Liberal decade of Carney and Trudeau. I've spent the first week of this campaign setting out ambitious and detailed plans to build our economy so we can stand on our own 2 feet and stand up against foreign threats. It's everything we should have been doing for the last 10 years, everything I said we should do over the last 10 years, and everything that Mark Carney has explicitly opposed over the last 10 years. In the first week of this campaign, I've laid out clear and detailed plans to relaunch our economy and take back control of our economic destiny. I've announced that we will cut income taxes by 15% to reward hard work and give our people a chance to get ahead. I've announced the Canada First reinvestment tax cut. Zero capital gains tax when you reinvest the proceeds building Canada right here at home.
Showing a lot of people want to separate. I put a poll up on Facebook.
Think about this. Think about this right now. There is currently no incentive, if you sell an investment today, to reinvest it in Canada.
Well, no,
you
Jack,
pay the same capital gains tax if you reinvest here versus sending it abroad.
Something about unaliving.
In fact, because the taxes on your later investment are lower abroad, the business taxes and other taxes, there is a perverse incentive to ship money away. And that's why so much investment has left. Then there's the lock-in effect.
Right.
Countless people hold on to tired old assets that they'd love to dispose of, but would face a walloping tax bill. So instead of disposing of it to someone who can do something better with it and using the proceeds to build new homes, launch a new factory, buy a new CNC.
Oh, that's it for that feed. Holy moly. Okay, well, that was actually pretty good. Where am I? Oh, I'm over here in the studio still. Yeah, okay. Well, we're getting some action there with Brett and that. Jack is talking to Brett over on the Facebook there. And everyone else is over here on YouTube. I think because he got banned or something over on YouTube or timed out, that he's over on Facebook there now. But everyone else is talking on YouTube here. Hey, but that's it. That's it for the show. Thanks a lot for joining us here today. And yeah, I guess the whole thing is that Trump has got the tariffs. They're on now. So Americans are going to have to pay 25% more for a lot of things coming from a lot of outside countries. If those things are actually manufactured in the United States, then you're not going to be paying any kind of a tariff for them. And that's the whole idea with the tariffs, is to make it so that you buy your own goods within your country and you don't buy things that are from another country because you're going to cost more. So it's the old, well, which thing is more expensive or less expensive? Well, people are more inclined to buy things that are cheaper, right? So, but the whole idea is to bring the jobs back home, back to the States. You know, put the tariffs on China to make the widgets in North America for the dollar store instead of, but except you're going to have to change the dollar store to make it the $2 store if they're manufactured in the States, right? Chinese thing, dollar store. American thing, $2 store. So put the tariff up so that the Chinese thing is, or the Canadian thing is $2, but you making it for $2. So, hey, that's okay. You're going to buy your own thing, and we can't compete against that. But, yeah, I don't know what Canada is going to do. We have a couple of days for the Canadian tariffs to come up, and they're going to be on select American goods, like I was saying. Not everything. If there are things that we can only buy from the States, then we're not going to put a tariff on it, right? But if there are things that can be produced within Canada, then we're going to put a tariff on that American thing. But when that happens, and Trump catches wind of that, well, he said he's going to go tit for tat. So if he sees Canadians coming up with, let's say, a 25% tariff on peanuts or something, then he's going to put up a tariff against peanuts, I guess. I don't know, even though we don't make peanuts in Canada or don't grow them. Buy them from the States, from the peanut farms down there. Who was that president? Was the peanut farmer there? Was it? Oh, geez. Anyways, I remember one of them was it Jimmy Carter, I think, the peanut farmer. I don't know. I think that's who it was. Yeah, it's just nuts here today. But anyways, that's the show here for today. I just want to cut the show like this because it's of a special interest type thing on the Trump thing in particular. I don't know if somebody wants to come up and talk about it on a panel or something like that. You got me. But I think I'll take a break here at this point. I'll drop the stream. And if I come back up again, then we'll maybe have a panel or something like that. But otherwise, yeah, that's the thing on Trump. The tariffs are an actual thing. The Canada spared from reciprocal tariffs, but 25% tariff continues for steel, aluminum, autos, and things like that. So I guess we're going to see what all happens. We're going to do an analysis of everything, analyze what everyone is talking about on the YouTube and on the television, and come up with some kind of a synopsis, a report on exactly where we stand at this moment in time. And it will be changing, like I say, on the 4th, because Canada will be giving putting up tariffs, a whole bunch of different tariffs, and we'll figure out what those are going to be. And of course, we're going to be live then to let you know what's going on there. But otherwise, people on the panels in Canada are not smiling. They're not smiling. They look like they're grimace on the panels talking about what's going on. But otherwise, I'm going to cut the stream. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you another time. Bye-bye for now.